like 28 days to renew the blood in your system, and 2 years to renew all of the cells in your body.
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're practicing a mostly plant-based, right, reduced processed food diet, like you could become a different person in 2 years and totally rewrite the fabric of your DNA.
That's exciting, I think.
It's exciting, and it's so empowering. It's so empowering. And you have to overcome, the fear, the addiction, and all of that sucks. But at the same time, like, it's so possible.
All right. Well, welcome everybody back to the podcast. In today's episode, we have a awesome guest. She's a San Jose native. She's the only child for 2 loving parents, a seeker of truth, 29-year-old entrepreneur, animal lover, a gardener, and a vegan, of course, of 5 years. She loves to sing and dance, and she's the owner and founder of California Vegan Food. Welcome to the podcast, Rosa Guerrero Contreras.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Awesome.
Thanks for being here.
Great to have you, right?
Yeah, super excited.
All right, so let's get right into it. I like to start out by kind of getting to know people, right? So you mentioned you're a San Jose native.
Yep.
Born and raised in San Jose.
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so my parents essentially, their family lines come from different places in the United States, but originated in Mexico, right? So I'm like 3rd and 4th generation Mexican, which is kind of strange to some people because it's like your 1st generation or you're like American.
Yeah.
But my parents actually put me back into school. I went to River Glen Spanish Immersion School and learned how to read and write in Spanish before English.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's like a really interesting integration of like the language and the culture. And so I was born and raised downtown San Jose.
Okay. So what was the name of the school again?
River Glen.
River Glen. Is that in San Jose?
It's in San Jose, yeah.
Okay.
In the Willow Glen area.
Okay.
Yeah. So born and raised downtown San Jose. My parents are 2 wonderful, hardworking people. My dad worked for PG&E for 23 years until diabetes got the best of him. And then my mom worked at Valley Medical Center as an emergency nurse for 32 years until dementia with Lewy bodies or Parkinson's got the best of her.
Wow. Sorry to hear about that. Yeah. And so, growing up in San Jose, what part of San Jose did you grow up in?
Downtown.
Downtown? Okay. So your whole life in downtown?
My whole life, yeah. Born and raised in the same house.
Wow.
And they still live in that house today.
That's cool. What part of downtown?
So like Negley Park area, like a couple blocks away from San Jose State.
Okay. So kind of by the school or whatever. Yeah. And then so obviously growing up, you said your parents are now suffering from some health stuff. Is that kind of what kind of motivated you to become plant-based or?
Absolutely. And it was really like a combination of things, right? So I became vegetarian when I was 16.
Okay.
In high school, I took a peace and justice class and learned about just the injustices in with Walmart, right? So it was like 2 different documentaries, one about Walmart and one about the meat industry. And so realizing that not only does Walmart exploit all of their supply chain, right, and everybody that they source from all over the world, but it is like hand in hand with the meat industry and how we do the exact same things to animals and to the environment in our own country.
Wow.
And so having learned both of that, I decided at a young age that I don't want to contribute to these cycles of violence.
Yeah.
Right. And just like, I don't know, I guess I'm also an empath because I feel very deeply for others, for my fellow companion and for animals, because you can't have a pet and not think that they don't have a soul.
Right.
They are sentient beings. They have feelings. They have wants. They have needs. Right. They poop. They pee, and they, and they eat just like us. They cry just like us.
Exactly.
So yeah, there's really nothing that anybody can tell me to try to convince me that they're like inferior.
Yeah.
Because they love us just the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, after watching those 2 documentaries, I became a vegetarian, and at that time, that really just made me stop eating fast food, which was great, and I'm so grateful that I made that decision way back then. But I definitely was not vegan at first, right? It was a journey. So it took me about 10 years, and so up until 5 years ago, where are we? So yeah, 2015, Cowspiracy was the documentary that really made me just no. I can't, because I was a vegetarian, and then I was a pescatarian for 2 years, and then I went back to eating meat for a little bit, and then watched Cowspiracy, and I was like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm going vegan, and we're going in hard.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you guys have ever seen Fully Raw Christina on YouTube, but she is a raw vegan YouTuber.
I've heard of her.
Yeah.
I've heard of her. Yeah.
Yeah, she's awesome. So she was my inspiration to become raw vegan, and I made the mistake. So everybody at home, don't become raw vegan first.
Yeah, that's pretty hardcore.
Because that's like all the way to the other side of the spectrum. So, not knowing what I was doing, just like a regular vegan, I went that far and, kind of had to pick myself up and made a lot of mistakes. And it definitely wasn't hard at the beginning, especially because like now, and it's only a 5-year difference, but now there's just like so many more products on the market.
Oh.
There's so many more things. You can go to Smart and Final and they have the whole like good and well section.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so
Wow.
there's like all kinds of, like faux meats and cheeses and yogurts and everything is really available today when even 5 years ago it wasn't.
Yeah, I agree with you because I went to Walmart.
Yeah.
Of all places,
Yeah.
like Walmart. Like, I mean, I usually go to like Whole Foods, Sprouts, because I'm thinking like that's the only place that's gonna have good vegan stuff. And then I'm in Walmart and I'm like, what? They have diet cheese?
Yeah.
I'm like, what? They have this? I'm like, dang, they have just egg? Like,
Yeah.
like Walmart. So I agree with you on that. Like, it's a lot easier nowadays. Like, and it's definitely like for the people out there that maybe you're trying to transition or you're looking, there's actually affordable options to get the vegan food and stuff like that.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
So now you're full 100% vegan.
100%. Yep.
For how many years? Is it 5 years now?
5 years. Yeah,
Okay.
5 years full vegan. And one of the pieces about it is even in San Jose, we do have some restaurants that are vegan or that have a lot of vegan options, but you get to the point where you're kind of like tired of eating the same thing all the time. And it's interesting too because like vegan or vegetarian establishments are not open late at night. So like in my earlier 20s when I was like a party girl,
of course, right?
I would never have anything to eat. So it would be so frustrating. And because of that, and because like the options that are out there aren't really like, the word that I like to use is comparable.
Right.
Like you want it to like, yes, okay, tofu is great. And that's an alternative, for a source of protein and all kinds of other, good stuff for your body. But like people don't love tofu.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So making a product that was comparable, right, especially for the Latino community, that was extremely important to me because, there's all these myths of that, like, oh, like being vegan is just for white people or being vegan is too expensive when that's not true. In actuality, Latinos, like our ancestors, where we come from, like Aztecs, Mayas, and Incas were not the carnivores that their Mexican right people are today.
Yeah.
So that's something that I'm really trying to work with, like my Latino customers and the Latino community in general, and something that I really want to push for and have people recognize that, like we're not going to go back to be exactly like how they were. That's just like not practical, but we can, shape shift our diet so that we're no longer suffering from all the diseases that we're suffering from today. And like, how you were talking about how your grandma died and how your grandpa died and how, like I see my parents, I see my family, I see my friends' parents. I went to my friend's house yesterday and his mom is now in a wheelchair. And she doesn't even know really what's wrong with her. But obviously, like the food that she's eating is making her sick, right? She's still drinking Coca-Cola. It's not only the meat. And I think that's something that, like when we're advocating for veganism, the other side of the spectrum is going to be like, well, really offended. And, but it's not solely about the meat, but it's the lifestyle.
Yeah.
And that's where we come to understand, right? The more that we learn about health and wellness is that like lifestyle diseases are not necessary. This is not natural. This is not normal. If you talk to your grandma, your great grandma didn't exist.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and that also connects to the food system and how it's managed.
And they also use a lot of alternative natural medicine back in the days before we were born.
Oh, yeah.
Before all the pharmaceutical drugs was created.
Of course.
So it's all about like natural herbs and natural food for healing.
Plant medicine.
Yeah.
Yep. Plant medicine,
Yeah.
herbal medicine, and preventative, right? Preventative action,
Exactly.
preventative habits. It's funny how now, like it's such a, I don't know, a rite of passage or whatever, but our society's relationship with alcohol,
Yeah.
Right. And the way that people just kind of like drink themselves into disease and are somehow surprised.
Right.
It's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I just poisoned my body for 15 years and all of a sudden I have cancer.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder why that happened.
Also, like with sugar, I want to
Yeah,
touch
sugar
base on
too.
sugar. Refined sugar is so bad.
Yeah.
You know, when I learned something about diabetes, it's also not just about sugar. It's the amount of carbs that you actually consume.
Yeah.
And you're making your heart, your body work really hard, your insulin levels and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw an awesome meme. It says, lifestyle or diet loads the gun and lifestyle pulls the trigger, or something like that, right?
Absolutely.
Or genetics load the gun and diet and lifestyle pull the trigger. So I don't know if you've heard of epigenetics.
I have heard of it, but I haven't like super looked into it.
So when I started getting into podcasts in 2017, Addicted to Success was my favorite podcast. And the guy had so many like successful, and he had Dr. Joe Dispenza and he had Dr. James Lipton, and he talked about epigenetics. And I was like, well, because obviously, she's Filipino, I'm Hispanic, you're Hispanic. Growing up, like you were mentioning, I thought diabetes was my death sentence.
Yeah, I thought it was inevitable.
Yeah. Both of my grandfathers died from diabetes. Like a lot of my family members have either diabetes or like high blood pressure or all this kind of stuff. And I just thought like, well, I mean, I'm Mexican. Like that's just my sentence. You know what I mean? Yep. And luckily, like you had mentioned earlier, you change your habits very young, because if you change them when you're young, it's really easy. But if you have those all the way to adulthood, it's very hard. But anyways, getting to the epigenetics, he talks about that only about 2% or less of actual diseases are hereditary. The rest is diet and lifestyle.
Yeah.
So it's not your genes or your race. It's the diet and lifestyle that comes with that. You know what I mean? Like, and I started looking at like, oh, okay, of course, right? Everything's fried. Like you said, the Coca-Cola is like water, and that's basically just pour sugar down your throat, you know? And yeah, so it's really is. It's just, that's what we inherit from our parents and our grandparents. It's not the gene. We inherit the genes, of course, but we inherit the diet and lifestyle that triggers those chronic diseases, right?
We do. And it's funny because I was just talking to my husband about this last night, of how our DNA works, right? And we have proteins in our body that are constantly transcribing and translating our DNA. So it's being recreated all the time because we are, these like energetic, like a battery vessel that recharges itself, and through food, right? Food is our fuel. So if you go to the gas station and you always put, like the cheap gas into your car, your engine is not going to run well, right? For the long term, you're going to have more maintenance, right? And that translates exactly to higher healthcare bills, more time, just like being unable to fully participate in your life. And so, I think this is probably not super duper accurate, but it's like 28 days to renew the blood in your system, and 2 years to renew all of the cells in your body.
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're practicing a mostly plant-based, right, reduced processed food diet, like you could become a different person in 2 years and totally rewrite the fabric of your DNA.
That's exciting, I think.
It's exciting, and it's so empowering. It's so empowering. And you have to overcome, the fear, the addiction, and all of that sucks. But at the same time, like it's so possible to get over it. And I think the thing that I really want to emphasize for everyone is just being patient with yourself. Just because I've been vegan for 5 years doesn't mean that I've been a picture perfect vegan the whole entire time. Heck no. I've been addicted to donuts. I've been addicted to French fries. I've been addicted to hot Cheetos. I've cheated so many times with hot Cheetos. And it's always like special occasions, like Christmas. I'm having a bag of hot Cheetos. Let's do this.
You're like, Santa brought me hot Cheetos, damn it. Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm not going to kill myself over that, because in the beginning of my veganism, I was so hard on myself. I was so frustrated with myself all the time. And that comes back to the space of like what in its essence, veganism is compassion. And you have to have compassion for yourself. If you don't have compassion of yourself, you're not going to do anything good for your family or for your community.
Yeah. And you mentioned something like, well, food is such a big part of culture.
Such a big part, yeah.
And like, especially in like any culture, right? Like, I mean, I can only speak for mine, and obviously Filipino culture. Joe can talk about that.
Filipino food, though.
Yeah, I mean, like everything is about food and family. Like pretty much, like our cultures are very similar.
Yeah.
Food and family, and you know, I think a lot of it is also ignorance too. Because if you don't know, like, I mean, I didn't know. Who am I to be like, oh, I'm better than this person because I ate meat. I ate a Western diet. A standard American diet, which the acronym is S.A.D, which is kind of sad, right? Yeah. So the S.A.D diet, I ate it for 39 years. Yep. So, I mean, when people tell me like, oh, I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, I was eating like that for 39 years. Like, but I understand because I've always been the type of person that's kind of tough mentally. Like I can deal with a lot of the adversity or the negativity or people alienating me because I was already like the black sheep anyway. So who cares if everyone alienates me because I'm already on my own anyways, right? Yeah. But you're kind of like leaving the tribe, and that's the biggest obstacle, I would say.
100%, and I can touch on that wholeheartedly, right? Because I am so my mom is mixed, my mom is half white, and my dad is full Mexican, and it's so weird. Like nothing in my family is like conventional or typical at all. But my mom, being the half white person, like she was the one who spoke Spanish, and my dad, being the full Mexican person, did not speak Spanish.
Oh wow, that's crazy. Yeah.
It's so weird. And so growing up, I had such an identity crisis all the time, right? And because I look white, and people always, I grew up in going to the Spanish immersion school, and so most kids going to the Spanish immersion school were like first generation Mexican who would go to Mexico every summer and every winter and visit their family, and like that was so beautiful. But that just wasn't my experience. I didn't have that. So I was bullied. I was bullied as a little kid for being white, which is kind of also the opposite dynamic. And so it really just like left me in a space where I kind of felt like I didn't have a tribe. I wasn't Mexican. Just like Selena, how she says, you're not Mexican enough for the Mexicans, you're not white enough for the white people. Like it's so it's exhausting.
Yeah.
So
I feel you on that one because I'm not half white, but my mom basically looks white. And when I was growing up, I looked white. And it's weird because like you said, the white part of your culture doesn't really accept you, and then the Hispanic part definitely doesn't accept you, and then you kind of have this like identity crisis, and so I know how you feel on that one. I went through the same exact things. There was a lot of benefits though, you know what I mean? And looking back at it now, like, to be honest, like I'm very proud of my culture. I'm very proud to be Mexican American. My father's from Mexico, so I had the first generation and my mom's like third generation. So I had a little bit of both. Yeah.
Dang.
So
that's awesome.
My mom's side is very American, right? Like, the hot dogs, the hamburgers, like Mexican American Chicano kind of type deal. And my dad's side
Potato
is like
salad.
straight up like from Mexico, and so I kind of had a little bit of both, right? And I'm very proud of it, but I don't like to label myself, to be honest, because I feel like it limits you, like if I just call myself like, oh, I'm Mexican and American and I'm proud, I'm already eliminating all these other amazing cultures. And so I'm like a chameleon. Like I like to adapt to whoever I'm around.
I love that.
We're so alike.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
See? Yeah.
Listening to what you're just saying right now. Yeah. I'm also just Filipino.
Yeah.
And, I eat all kinds of food, like vegan, obviously, different cultures. I don't stick to the same kind of people. I don't stick to my own kind. I have all kinds of friends. Yeah. Different cultures, different languages. It doesn't matter. Like I want to explore it all. And I don't just want to label myself as a Filipina. I label myself as human. A human being. Yeah.
We're all one race, you know what I mean?
Right.
I think so Nimai Delgado, I don't know if you know who he is. He's like a big vegan influencer and bodybuilder. He's like, I love him. He's really cool. And he said like, race, human, religion, love, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of like how I am, you know what I mean? So but it is important for me to, just like how it is for you, and I know it is for Joe too, is to influence my culture. And this podcast is part of it too. That because I feel like in any culture, basically, if you go vegan, you feel like, oh my God, I'm giving up my culture. I can't have my food. I can't have my tacos. I can't have my enchiladas. I can't have my this. You can. You just have to substitute. And like you mentioned earlier, there's so many, like now it's like pretty easy. You know what I mean? Like you want meat, go get Beyond Meat. I learned how to make my own seitan the other day. Like it's pretty easy. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Just eggs for eggs.
just egg.
So good.
I don't know if you tried just egg.
I do, and no shade, but I don't like it.
Okay.
But I make a garbanzo bean flour egg.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Garbanzo
and
flour.
it's just like decadent.
So yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like that's the cool part about it. Like even if the substitutes don't work, you can always find a way.
There's
you know what
always
I mean?
something,
Yeah.
right? Always something, and I think that's really the part that I want to hit on the head for the community is that you don't have to sacrifice anything. If anything, you have food that not only can taste better, but it's better for you. So it's going to make you feel better. And you're just going to like be able to live your life in such a more fulfilling and complete way. And I don't know if this is the same for you or for anybody out there, but as a little person, like growing up eating meat, right, we're conditioned to do that. Our parents tell us to do that because they think that that's the right thing to do. And, you know, so it's just a cycle. But something in the back of my head always knew that, like, I was eating an animal, you know, but I repressed it so much because this is what I grew up to know was the thing to do. And so, I don't know. I just wanted to say that because if that speaks to anybody, and it's true, and then once you eat vegan food, it's guilt-free.
Yeah.
You really like actually don't have to worry about taking the lives of anybody. And of course there is, you know, the subject of ensuring that the supply chain is just because it's vegan doesn't mean that it's cruelty-free necessarily.
Yeah.
But that's really just, you know, that's what is it? Splicing hairs.
Yeah. So you've always kind of been compassionate, like
Yeah.
just it's been in your nature.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they even say like they didn't experiment. Like they gave a baby a rabbit and they gave a baby an apple, and the baby's not going to try to bite the rabbit.
No.
The baby plays with the rabbit, right?
Yeah.
And then it eats the apple.
Yeah.
So like even with that experiment, like a 2-year-old kid already instinctively knows like I'm not supposed to eat the rabbit. Like
Right.
a true carnivore, if you put a baby lion and you put a rabbit in an apple, the baby lion would probably
gonna
eat the rabbit. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? And ignore the apple.
Well,
It's kind of a sad analogy, but it's true. You
well,
know
no,
what I mean?
but and it's this fake narrative that like, oh, like we're cavemen and we like hunt and gather, and it's like, no, it's really because people don't understand sociology and don't understand psychology and don't understand how the economy was set up at that time, right? At that time of the caveman, right, there was no formal economy. There
Right.
was no commerce.
Yeah, there was
right?
no Whole Foods.
No, there was no industry, right? It was
Yeah.
literally like man versus animal.
Exactly.
And in that context, sure,
Yeah.
go ahead, you know, kill your animals, but you're not going to be able to manufacture them in such a way that is like destroying the planet. And that's what we have to understand today, that we have the power as consumers, right? We have the power as the eaters to decide what is good for us and what is not.
And by the way, the cavemen had to survive.
Yeah.
For them, it was survival.
Yeah.
They couldn't grow. If they lived in a climate that couldn't grow vegetables or whatever, they had to live off whatever they had to live off.
Right.
They also died very young.
And they were nomads.
Yeah.
So they didn't have the opportunity to plant anything in the ground
Yeah.
because they literally had to move from place to place. So it's like totally different context.
Yeah, it wasn't until they learned how to cultivate that big civilization started, like the Egyptian Empire and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So when people go, "Oh, caveman, okay, you want to go die at 40 and run around and make sure a lion doesn't eat you too, then go for it." You know what I mean? But we're in 2020.
Yeah, we live
know?
differently now.
Yeah.
And you guys want to know something that a family member told me?
Sure. Let's hear
He's
it.
a big religious man, my father,
Yeah.
aka my father.
What's up, Pops? We got some good stories about her father. That's fine.
he was just saying, like, he wanted to argue with me, but I wasn't going to have it. And like, basically God created animals for humans to eat.
Yeah.
I told my brother that, and he just laughed. Like, because my brother knows that's not the truth.
Yeah,
like,
it's in the Bible.
no,
It's not the truth.
it's just like, come on. But I'm still gonna be vegan, around him, and it's just I tell him, stop eating so much meat. Like, your cholesterol levels are so high.
Yeah.
But I guess it's just really hard for people to change their ways.
Yeah.
At a certain age,
Especially like when they're grown. Like, believe it or not, like I was so fortunate because both of my parents went vegan the same time I did.
What?
Yeah, imagine 60-year-old
Oh my God.
Hispanic parents. Like,
Dude, that warms my whole
Yeah,
heart.
like-
That's like my dream.
Like
Yeah.
I honestly believe it would have been harder for me, even though I'm tough, even though I don't like.
Yeah.
Because if I was the only one in my family, like the alien, like I think it would be a little tough. I'd still do it because I don't give a crap, you know. But the fact that my parents went vegan, and it was cool because it also helped us connect more. And I'm teaching them like how to make stuff because my father's like a really good cook.
Yeah.
Like here's the thing, that the crazy part about it, my father was a cook in our whole family. Like not just my mom and dad, like our extended family. So they'd be like, is your dad cooking? I'm like, yeah. The whole family would come over and he would make like 3 types of meat at every meal and like cheese galore and like, but he would make it kind of healthy, but it still wasn't healthy now understanding, right? And he didn't know. It was nothing against him, right? But then somehow my dad reads the book How Not to Die.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going vegan. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. And my mom just follows him because my dad's the leader. So whatever my dad does, my mom, because he's a cook anyway.
Yeah.
So she's like, I have to eat his food. And my mom was at first really like kind of like against it, right? Because my mom's American more than Mexican, you know?
Yeah.
And, but yeah, I mean, I was very fortunate because both my parents went vegan at the same time. So imagine that. And then as a child of parents, right, you just want them to be healthy because they're retired, you know, and you just want them to be as healthy as they can be, you know. But like she said, like it's so difficult to change, especially our parents. Like they're like, what? I changed your freaking diapers. Are you gonna tell me how to
exactly.
eat?
They don't want to listen,
Yeah.
right? And that's something that I always think. And I just had a conversation with my mom because I made the mistake of when I first went vegan, I tried to shove it down their throats.
We've all been there.
little
Don't,
bit,
don't feel
yeah.
bad. Yeah.
But it was coming from the most, caring and loving place because I
course.
just what you said. I just want the best for them. I just want them to be healthy and I just want them to be happy. And I want them to heal, you know, in every single way. So, I mean, that's where I am now. Like, yes, they are very progressed in their illnesses, but like, I'm not going to give up on them.
Well, it's never too late.
No, I
like
don't
you said,
think
your
so.
body can regenerate. Yeah, like I mean, that's awesome, and I will do whatever it takes to help that out. Maybe if they just hear you on this podcast, they'll be like, wow, that's kind of cool, you know?
I can't wait to share this podcast already with my mom, and also like. It's the mindset too.
Yeah.
It's your heart, your mindset. You have to like really train that, and then once you go to shifting to eating more plant-based, it just becomes more natural and easier.
Yeah.
But it really starts in the mind and your intention. I had an intention of going vegan in my 30s when I was back in my early 20s, and I did it.
Yeah.
I just knew I was gonna go for it.
Yeah.
You know,
and
10 years.
that's so cool. Well, my vegan journey was also about 10 years long, and I think that's one thing, just going back to emphasizing how patient you have to be with yourself,
Right.
Right? Because you're not going to have all the answers. Like, unless you have all the money in the world to like hire yourself a vegan chef and all of that, like, good on you.
Yeah.
But if you don't, and you have to learn the hard way, like most of us do, then just be patient, right? And then having a vegan community is excellent. But going back to the parent piece really quickly, you know, we've gotten to the point where, you know, they come to my farmer's market every Saturday.
That's
and
awesome.
they order
Yeah.
our food every
Yeah.
Saturday, and I am just like so tickled and so happy about just that.
Well, even
you know?
those small changes will make a big
Yeah.
difference. You
Heck
know what I
yeah.
mean? Because it's the truth. When something is the truth, like it's always going to win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just that people, you know, it's a big change, and
Yeah.
give people credit for that, because your diet is a huge thing. And then, like you said, if you don't know how to cook, it's an uphill battle.
Yeah.
Because then you're eating a lot of processed stuff. And that's not healthy either. You know what I mean? And by the way, you can be unhealthy and be a vegan. So we're not up here saying that vegans are the healthiest people in the world. If you're eating Oreos and nothing but processed food and, you know, that's not very healthy. It's healthier than the standard American diet,
Yeah.
but it's not healthy, right?
Exactly.
Healthy is whole foods, plant-based, and then maybe 20%
Yeah.
processed
It's supposed
stuff.
to be
as well.
80-20, so
Yeah.
it really depends on how much snacks. I'm a snacky.
I know.
I eat a lot of snacks. Depending on how much
Chips.
snacks you're eating, you know, like 20% is good, 80 whole foods. You know, that's the good balance. So.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, that paired with, right, adequate sleep,
Yeah.
hydration.
Yeah.
I think our society takes for granted hydration and the quality of the water that you're eating.
Yeah.
Right? Exercise. And it doesn't have to be all crazy, because I think, like, you know, in high school, right, I played soccer. And so, like, in my early adulthood, it was like, like, oh, well, if I'm not, like working myself to the bone, then I'm not doing anything. But it's the contrary. Like, you just need that one thing that you're doing. Even if you're just doing something one day a week, that's enough. That's okay, because that's gonna kickstart this like motivation inside of you. Once that one thing bears fruit, then you're gonna be like, oh, maybe I can do another thing. Yeah. Maybe I can wake up and run. Yeah. Maybe I can. It really does fuel, and the food allows you to have that energy that you need to do it, right? And it's everything, right? Eating and having a lifestyle that is conducive to the biology of your body. And I think that's the piece too, because a lot of people are like, oh, animal meat is good for us because it has everything we need.
So your uncle said, everything I need is in the steak.
Pointed at the steak. And I don't remember how old I was, but I think I had to have been around like 14, 15, 16, right? Wow. So already like thinking about just, the consequences of the food that we eat. And my dad at the time had already begun to struggle a lot with diabetes. So, he had ulcers on the bottom of his feet off and on all the time. He broke his foot in 6 places and didn't even know, because one of the side effects of diabetes is neuropathy, right? So neuropathy causes you not to feel anything from your knee and below.
My gosh.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
So just experiencing all of that, he spent total, I want to say he spent years in bed, just bedridden. Wow. Right. And so, family gatherings, birthday parties, vacations, all kinds of things. Like, we went on a lot of vacations. Like, I'm not going to act like we didn't, because we absolutely did. But we had to, it was always an excuse, like, oh, like my dad's not feeling well. And we weren't able to fully participate in our family or in our community because of an illness. Yeah.
It's very sad too, because like, they just don't know. Like, I mean, it like when I first started educating myself, right? Because I don't just do something just because it's a fad or because someone says it's good, but obviously What the Health was one of the documentaries I watched. Absolutely. And I started really doing research and reading. I did like maybe 3 months of research, and then I don't know if you feel the same way, but I got angry. I felt like we've been freaking lied to, like about food, and like
so many different ways.
Like all these family members that passed away and been sick, like they didn't need to. You know what I mean? It's just, it's probably the most successful marketing scheme in the world is the meat and dairy industry. And they're very powerful, and they have lobbyists, and it's like, it's going to take some time, but what I'm really happy about is the new generations, like the millennials and Z, they're very progressive when it comes to that.
These babies are being born vegan. Like, they already know. Like, how many videos do you see on YouTube of just like little babies, and they're like, no. Yeah. I'm not going to eat. Babies are coming out vegan. How they are, they're just like much more aware. Yeah. They're much more aware and a little bit less susceptible to, just the same old thing.
Yeah. And that brings me to something, the food system. Like, do you know that the jails, the hospitals, and the schools have all the same food?
I'm not surprised, because I worked at a high school for 3 years. I worked at some San Jose Jesuit high school, and they had this company. I don't know if I should name it or not, but
doesn't matter, whatever.
X Foods, right? And it was all garbage food, but technically it was like, oh, these are the state guidelines for healthy blah blah blah, and like the kids hated it, right? They hated every single thing about it. And I think that's also the biggest marketing scheme ever, is that if you make food that tastes terrible and say that it's healthy, so people are going to think healthy food tastes terrible. And that's the biggest lie in the whole entire world, because healthy food actually tastes the best.
Yeah, and if you think about the food that kids eat, like we were having a conversation about when she used to eat cereal,
Lucky Charms in the morning,
and wonder why she felt like shit all the time.
I go to class, I'm really sleepy, I don't want to be here, like my brain feels dead. Yeah,
because you just overloaded on sugar, and like all these things we give to kids is like the worst food on earth. And these are like kids, by the way, like. Once their little brains get addicted to the sugar and the salt and
the cheese,
the fat and the cheese, like you've basically ruined them. Like they're little addicts. Like we're all addicts anyways, in some way. Like I started intermittent fasting maybe about a year ago. And that really helped me get rid of my addiction to food. Because I used to be one of those people that got hangry, you know, like I was hungry and I couldn't even think, I couldn't talk. I was like, eh. Well, what does a drug addict do when they don't get their drugs?
Same.
Cranky.
Like cranky, they just give me that, you know, and especially in this country, because like whenever there's something in abundance, you have addictions, right? And so, like, you know, we're not in a third world country. Like, we're in a rich country. We're in a first world country where you can almost have whatever the hell. Like, it's, like, ridiculous what they do to food. Like, deep fried, something that's already deep fried. And, like, so.
Deep fried Twinkies and then the, like, toe durkin or whatever. Like, why are you putting a what is it, like a duck inside of a chicken inside of a turkey? Like
what?
Yeah,
it's a turducken.
A turducken. There you go.
It sounds disgusting now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I mean, it's a system thing, right? And I know you wanted to talk about that, but basically our system, and you know, I don't want to like demonize anybody who's like rich and powerful, because not everybody who's rich and powerful is bad.
Yeah, true.
Unfortunately, especially with the leadership now, and this is not a political podcast either, but you have so many powerful people in positions where they don't really care about people's health. They don't really care about the future. It's a lack of leadership, really, is what it is.
True leadership, right?
True leadership,
true compassionate leadership, because I don't know, and obviously, like, I haven't crunched the numbers, and I imagine, because I was always curious, just like growing up and going to college and understanding that, like, okay, if capitalism is so much so going to be for the advantage of the few, like, how is that going to be a high return in the long run?
Yeah.
Like, what we do is we get a big chunk of cash or whatever resources in the beginning, and then that dwindles. And because it dwindles, we have to cut into our bottom line so that the people in power continue to get more. But I don't know, I feel that, and, you know, if you follow like universal laws, the universal law of abundance, if you give to others, like, inevitably you are going to get back. Like, that's how the universe goes.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Yeah. If we can change our mentality, and if we can say, like, no, giving to you doesn't take anything away from me. Giving to you actually amplifies
100%
the amount that I'm going to get back. Like, if we can move forward into our future, into the next, even just the next 4 months, you know, with a little bit of that, we are going to see a different world.
Yeah.
And you hit it on the head, like, because obviously my previous company, it's a company where people were extremely wealthy. Like, I'm talking about millionaires.
Yeah.
People making $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $100,000, $200,000 a month, right?
Dang.
And what I learned is that it's not really that there's rich people with their finger on you trying to keep you down. It's the mindset. It's the way people think.
Yeah.
So obviously I come from a middle class upbringing, right? We were poor in the beginning, and then we were middle class. So I remember when I was little, my aunt, I didn't know why, but both my aunts and uncles lived with us in one home, and I was like, whoa. I just thought it was normal, right? It was cool to have my cousins live with us, right? Little did I know that my parents could not really afford the house. They just had to have 3 families in there to afford it, right? But as my mom and dad started moving up in their careers, we started moving to better areas and stuff like that. And so I learned that it's all about the mindset.
Yeah.
I used to be proud to be middle class. But if you just look at the basis of middle class, you're in the middle.
Yeah.
Like, you're not too low, but you're not successful either. You're just kind of like average, right? And we were programmed to think that average is okay. You know, they say the middle class is the hardest class to become successful from, because you're not poor, like where you're so poor that you hate it so much that you need to become rich and then become successful. But then again, you're not wealthy like the Trumps and the, you know, the Clintons and, you know, all these super successful people where their parents are like, oh, my friend's the CEO of this company. You just graduated. Let me call him and get you the job as the VP. You know what I mean? And again, nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
I'm not judging. I'm just explaining. It's all mindset. It really is. The diet's all mindset. The lifestyle's all mindset. As you mentioned, abundance. This world is meant to be abundant. We can have it all if we really truly believe in it, and you're willing to put in the work for it. You know what I mean? Most people, especially the middle class, they want the dream, but they're not going to put in the work.
Yeah.
Or they
Comfortable.
don't want to give up their family time or their parcheesi or their hobbies. You have to sacrifice in the success demands that you pay the price up front and in full.
Yep.
You cannot have it all. You're not going to, there's no such thing as balance. Balance is an absolute BS myth, right? You have to be temporarily unbalanced in order to be able to have, I wouldn't call it balance, but to have kind of freedom, right? But the middle class, I think I call it a disease, to be honest. Like I was raised middle class, whatever. If you're middle class, I mean, I'm not talking smack or anything, but I'm trying to wake you up and say like, that is really like a disease. Like that's the reason people are super wealthy is because they don't think like that. They think abundant.
Yeah.
They think I can have it all. They think I'm going to be the number one, and they back it up with work. They sometimes sacrifice the comforts of middle class. Like middle class likes to be comfortable.
Yeah.
They don't like to be uncomfortable. They have their child's football game and basketball game and family time and weekend parties, and then they wake up 50 years later and nothing ever happened. You know what I mean? Where if you think differently, like I wouldn't even call it upper class, because upper class doesn't have the compassion. It's called world class beliefs, where you have abundance, you operate from love. You learn about health because they say peace starts on the plate. You know what I mean? And how can you have peace if what you're putting in your body is causing unrest in your own system, right? So I don't know why I went on this big tangent, but you kind of like sparked something when you talked about abundance, right? Like the reason I started this podcast is I truly understand that life is abundant. Like, yeah, Joe Rogan, he's number one right now. You know, and there's other people that have millions and 2 million, and Mr. Beast has 40 million, and PewDiePie has 100 million.
Dan Trevino.
But there's 8 billion people in the world. There's enough for everybody.
There is. The pie is definitely big enough. And the middle class tangent that you went on spoke to me too, because I also can say that I came from the middle class. Yeah. Right? And most of my family was middle class or is middle class. But the reason why I decided to have a business, and the reason why I feel so motivated to do this, is because I'm not just thinking about myself.
Right.
I'm not just thinking about my kids. I'm thinking about 7 generations.
There you go.
That's how the world class thinks.
Yeah.
And that's how we have to think. And if we think like that, then nobody is ever going to go without, because we're thinking about 7 generations. Our kids are going to think about 7 generations, and everybody behind them is going to continue to do the work that's necessary, or uphold and sustain the systems that we create in order for it to just continue to generate and generate and generate. And I believe it's possible.
Amen. Like, I don't even want to say amen. I'm not really religious, but the Bible even says it. It says a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. Like, okay, if you're not wealthy, and by the way, we live in a capitalist system.
Yep.
And I was talking to my friend about this the other day. I go, there's capitalism, there's communism, there's socialism. We're in capitalism. What does that mean? Like you said earlier, it's designed for only a few to succeed. Yep. That's just the way it is, right? It's still the greatest country in the world. I'm not saying anything bad about it. Like, yeah, we have our issues. Yeah, we have some wacky stuff going on, right? But in the end, someone that comes from, like, you know, for example, you know, my videographer Hatem, he comes from like Syria, right? Or maybe the Philippines, a third world country. Like, you don't have the opportunities in those countries that you have here. And then these immigrants come to the United States, and they absolutely mop up the floor with the Americans, right? Why? Because they go, what's wrong with you? Like, you have freedom here. Like, you could do whatever the heck you want. And then they succeed because they put in the work, they appreciate it, all that kind of stuff. So we live in a capitalist society. So people out there listening to this podcast, if you're in the United States and you're complaining about your life, well, do something about it.
Well, and that's really an opportunity for people to look within, right?
Exactly.
If you're complaining about your life and you're blaming your job for your unhappiness, or you're blaming your partner for your unhappiness, you're blaming your dad, you're blaming, I've been through so many situations where, a really small example, like time management, right? My parents never taught me time management.
Of course.
My parents never taught me financial management.
Yep.
You know, it was just kind of a free for all, you know, like they got money, they spent money, they refinanced their house 4 times, and it was just a unhealthy pattern of I don't know, I want to say like life chaos, you know, kind of, but it was fun, and I'm not trying to say anything bad because my parents were wonderful, but at the same time, I can't continue to become a more mature adult and say, oh, I don't do X because they didn't teach me. You and everyone, right, has the opportunity. If you want to better your health, we have access to the World Wide Web. The internet is abundant with information. All it takes is curiosity, and all it takes is patience, and all it takes is a little bit of dedication. And one of the pieces that that you were talking about when you were talking about your grandmother, what it comes back to for me and for my family especially is the connection to self and the self-love. Right? Because if you don't have self-love, you're not going to make a commitment to better yourself. You're not going to make a commitment to better your family. What you're going to do is you're going to sit in your ego, you're going to sit in your anger, you're going to sit in your resentment, or you're going to sit in whatever feeling that doesn't serve you. So that's another huge thing, especially for nowadays. Like, you know, if y'all out there are sitting with resentment and anger, and you don't know what to do about it, or, you know, you find yourself drinking yourself into the toilet and fighting with your best friends, or doing things that really are not benefiting you in any way, that is an opportunity and a message from the universe to say, hey, like, I really need to look at this, and I need to step out of my ego and step out of my, you know, of my pride, and say, what is my actual goal? What is it that I want? What does everybody want? To be happy.
Exactly.
To have love in their life. Like, it's not fucking rocket science.
Exactly.
Simple. It's
so simple.
Yeah.
You know, they say your ego is not your amigo, right? You know? And, but do you think our system is designed to make you not love yourself?
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I think, honestly, like, I grew up in the age of not social media, and then I also now I'm living in the age of social media. So us as like the sandwich generation, you know, they say my generation, and maybe both of you guys a little bit too, is like, but especially me, because I'm from the 70s, right? We have boomer values because we did kind of like, I was like near the end of the boomers. The boomers ended in like 64, I think. So I was like maybe 12 years or 13 years after the boomer generation. But I also caught in onto the technology craze, right? So I'm not like a boomer that doesn't understand technology at all. And they're like, what is this computey thing? You know what I mean? Or this iPhone, you know, or this whatever. But I also have the values. But so growing up in both generations, I can see now where, like, when I was growing up, like, if you screwed up, it's not like all over the internet. You know what I mean? Like, people can't shame you. It's like just your little group of friends and that's it, you know?
Yeah.
But what's your opinion on, because you talked about self-love, which is very, very important, you know?
Super, yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why there's a lot of divorce. I think that's one of the reasons why, I mean, just the way things are now, like, talk about OnlyFans and all this kind of stuff, like, you know, I think it doesn't allow you to love yourself, or you figure it out much later in life. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, especially as a young person, and for me, it all starts in conditioning, right? It depends on, like, the values and the experiences that any child will have during conditioning. So
okay, I agree 100%.
Yeah, during conditioning, and this is really just on my own personal experience and my observations of my friends. I have a lot of friends who have kids, right? And there's not a lot of instances where parents will, like, really, like, get down face to face with their kid and say, you know, and explain, like, certain behaviors or certain actions, right? And an example, so on Monday, I went over to my friend's house for Labor Day, and her little girl, so it was her aunt, and her daughter. And her aunt asked her daughter if she wanted some water. And the daughter, like, yelled at her, like, really aggressively, like, no, I don't want any water.
Yeah.
Just like a heck of man. And they were like, whoa. They're like, this was crazy. And instead of saying, hey, why, like, where did that come from? Or are you angry? Right? Are you upset? You know, if you don't dissect the reason for the action, then you give judgment. Right, you give judgment to the child, and you say, oh, this child, she has an attitude, you know, or this child, she doesn't know how to speak well, or she's, you know, malcriada in Spanish, so not mal-educated, right, or not raised well. And so it's interesting that, like, we really don't give our children the tools to think introspectively, because they understand the world in accordance to the other. Right. In accordance to, like me. So one thing that I'm working through in my adulthood is people pleasing. And I've realized in my recent past that I grew up, my whole entire life has basically been people pleasing. Right. And it starts with my parents, because I never wanted my parents to be mad at me. I never wanted them to be upset with me. So what did I do? I tried to do everything to make them happy. Everything to make them proud. Everything, you know, that's why I went to the schools that I went to. That's why I got the grades that I got, because I wanted to make them happy. But did anybody ever ask me what the hell I wanted to do? No.
But you did, right? You asked yourself.
Yeah. I asked myself, and I knew. But, you know, when you're little, you feel powerless. You know, you feel helpless.
I always talk about that. That's another rant. Like, literally, like, you could trigger me off like 100 different rants, but I'll just talk about it real quick, because it's not about me. But so we're usually, if we had good parents and we loved our parents and they really were strong parents, we usually end up living our parents' dream until hopefully one day we wake up. And that's really one of the main reasons for this podcast, is because I'm here going to be 43 in a couple months, right? And I'm barely discovering my purpose. And sometimes it does take that long, right? But I remember when I was like 28, right? I was married, had the job, had a degree, picket fence, 2 dogs, right? And I was miserable. And I was like, I mean, I had a great wife, and I'm really glad that we're actually, my ex-wife and I were good friends now. It took a long time, right? But I woke up one day and I was like, what the heck? I am not living the life I want to live. I am living the life my parents want me to live. And it was the scariest, most weird realization in the world. And nothing against my parents. Like you said, like, our parents did the best that they could, right? If you had good parents, and I'm pretty sure we all had pretty good parents, because we ended up okay. Like, you know, everybody has issues, right? But, you know, part of this podcast is called the Bliss Seekers, right? We want to inspire people to find their true purpose and follow the bliss. Because what is life about? Like, life is really about you realizing why you're here and contributing and doing something that fulfills you. Because you know, whether you live a long life or a short life, it's a period of time, right? And if you live your life to make other people happy, you're going to have a very miserable, very upset, sad existence. Or maybe you're okay with that, but you're never going to really reach your full potential, you know? And so, that's super powerful. Like, I mean, I want to inspire people to go and really find their true purpose, regardless of where you're at. Because, like you said, we could find ourselves people pleasing. It's called approval addiction, and actually most of it have it a lot. And we're taught from young, because kids learn, oh, if I make parents happy, I get what I want. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But yeah, that's really a big topic and a big deal. Is like, do not live your life to please your parents.
People's eyes.
Yeah.
No.
As well.
You have one life. Figure out what you're here to do on this earth, and just go do it, no matter how scary. And by the way, people who do stuff doesn't mean they're not afraid. They just have courage. One big component of leadership is courage. It means they're afraid, but they still do it afraid.
And what isn't it like Will Smith has a quote, you know, like your wildest dreams are just on the other side of your fear.
Anyone skydiving.
That is so funny. I know, definitely on my bucket list.
Me
but
too.
I am
we should do
afraid
it.
of falling.
Do you want to go skydiving?
I don't know. I'm still a
Yeah,
little
I
afraid
don't
of that.
know. Yeah, it's
You can
no pressure.
I can film
us. Yeah.
So I'm one of those people that, like, I go, if I could lose my life or a limb, it's probably not worth it for me. You know what I mean?
That's good.
I measure the risk.
You need to have
here,
boundaries.
but I understand. Like
Yeah.
the risk of getting hurt in skydiving is very
it's like
small.
very-
There's
yeah,
professionals.
very
Just like I'm super afraid of sharks because I watched Jaws like when I was little,
Yeah.
right? And like a little seaweed touches my foot and I'm like jamming out of the water, right?
But in actuality, you know, sharks are just like
Yeah.
demonized.
It's
and they're
very rare.
actually like really, really
Yeah.
nice animals.
They are.
But then again, if you get bit by a shark, I mean, you're
That's
in their
gonna
freaking,
suck.
you're in their, like you're in their zone, like you're in their territory.
Yeah.
That would be like a fish walking into a sushi restaurant and be like, how the heck did I end up sushi? Like, what's going on here? Like, I was just trying to walk around and all of a sudden, like a big bluefin tuna walks into a sushi restaurant and wonders why the heck he became sushi. Well, hello, you go into the ocean. That's not our, not our realm. That's
No.
shark's realm, you
True.
know? And if they decide to bite you because they think you're food and oops, I'm sorry, I made an accident, but now your leg's off, then, you know, whatever. Anyways.
I just want to add something real quick about our parents.
Sure.
You know, I looked at my parents. They're divorced, and I was really confused on which one to follow as my leader. But I realized growing up, I'm just gonna like take all the good from one side to the other, and then you know I'm 31 now, and obviously I still look up to them somehow, and I was like arguing with myself throughout this years what I want to do with my life. And, you know, part of it is because I want to please them. I want to do what makes them happy.
Yeah.
You know, and I made a very clear intention that I'm going to do what I love and I'm going to take care of my parents. Even if, I mean, my mom already approves of this. Like, she
That's
loves
cool.
this
Yeah.
idea, a
That's
YouTube
good.
channel. My dad doesn't know yet, but, you know, eventually I'm just going to surprise him.
Yeah.
But for me...
Or he'll get
like,
surprised with one of his friends. Be like, hey, isn't this your daughter?
Yeah.
What?
Exactly. But for me, I had to really accept the fact that I'm going to do things my way, even though other people won't approve of it. If I'm not hurting anyone and it's coming from the heart, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So,
As long as it's legal, moral, and ethical,
yeah.
then, I mean, in the end, you're going to win. Because this is what happens.
Exactly.
At first, they hate. Because then they're just, like, most of the time, parents and family, they just want the best for you. So, for them, it was impossible. For
Right.
them, it was scary. So, they're trying to protect you,
Yep.
right? But this is what's going to happen. First, they might hate or they might not understand. And then they're going to be like, oh, wow. Like, you did it. And then they'll be like, oh, I knew you could always do it. And you're like, wait a minute. You were being negative the whole time. You know, anyways, I can go off on that forever, too. But, you know, our parents' job is to make us be able to be productive human beings on earth. That's pretty much all their job is.
Yeah, that's what it
We
boils down
can
to.
feed ourselves, we can work, we can do productive. The rest is up to us,
Yeah.
to be honest. Once you're an adult, like even if you had a messed up upbringing, like you're not a tree. Like you can change. You know what I mean? Like
You can
you can adapt, right?
You can move. You're not a tree, you can move.
Exactly.
Keep it moving.
And you know they're going to do the best that they can, but really it's up to us. And then just real quick, I wanted to go back on the values because I agree with that 100%. But the Jesuits, they have a saying that says, "Give us a child from 0 to 7, and I'll show you the man or woman or whatever." Right? But what does that mean? From 0 to 7, our brains are in record mode.
Yeah.
That's when we're creating our subconscious. And our subconscious makes 80 to 90% of our decisions. So anything that happened to us from 0 to 7, whether it's good, bad, or traumatizing or whatever, we don't even realize it, but we're pretty much on autopilot for most of our lives based on that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so if it's like limiting beliefs, if it's like trauma, if it's anything, it's going to stick with you forever until you actually take a deep dive into yourself and try to like address it. Right. But as you mentioned, you know, values and all that kind of stuff is so important because one of my missions is to create a school for kids from 0 to 7. Right. Because I know if we can get them there and teach them like nutrition, teach them like stuff that actually works in life, like leadership,
Like life skills.
like goals, like budgeting your checkbook, like
Survival
learning about
skills.
taxes, like cooking, like all this kind
Handling emotional regulation.
of exactly emotional intelligence,
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah,
like that,
that
goal
too.
setting. Like if they can learn that from 0 to 7, unless they do something really crazy in their life, they'll be pretty much set. You know what I mean? And the most important thing for me, especially our culture as being Hispanic, is nutrition. Because like growing up when I was in high school, there wasn't that many overweight people.
Yeah.
There was like one or two in the whole school, right?
That's true.
And then now you go to like middle schools and you'll see like young kids. Obese.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I don't want to get controversial here, but that's kind of like child abuse for the parents.
It is child abuse.
Child abuse.
Yeah, because so I mean, and again, I'm not here to call parents bad or anything like that, because obviously they don't know either. They're just going whatever, but like it really is. It's kind of like child abuse, because if you set the kid up with bad eating habits from the get-go, like they're pretty much screwed. Like if you're obese in middle school, like your whole life is messed up. You know what I mean? But anyways, I digress. So one of my passions is to try to create a school. I wanted it to be for Hispanic people, but obviously I don't want to like not include anybody else, right? But I wanted to one day teach about like all the stuff that actually works in life. And then like they say, like learn the kid, what are their natural gifts and talents, and work to that.
Yeah. And how do they learn best?
Exactly.
I think that was a huge thing for me, because, you know, they just put us into this like, you know, machine that teaches everybody the same, right? We all took those STAR tests. We all had to like circle a million bubbles. And unfortunately, I mean, the way that I believe that I learn the best, because I, you know, like I wanted to be a doctor, going to college, and I failed, right? I failed in biology. I failed in chemistry. But it was because a lecture style classroom was not where I excelled. But I had a D, right, in like the class, and I had an A+ in the lab. So like for me to be able to like touch and feel and see and record and watch and experiment, right? That is how I learned the best. So I feel that 100%, because our education system.
Yeah, school system's messed up. It's completely broken. Yeah. They try to put all the kids in a square or round hole, and it is what it is.
I was really bored.
Yeah.
I was more of an artist.
Yeah,
before.
I think all the creative kids were just like doing
really
the whole time.
Yeah, really bored.
I used to, the teachers used to get mad at me and want to punish me because I would just be drawing all the time. Like, because I went to a private Christian school. I don't know if you know, but Liberty Baptist. It's in the east side. It's right off of Capitol and King. Or King becomes Silver Creek, right?
Oh, wow. Oh, okay, so it's like up there.
Yeah, it's like, so if you're going down Capitol towards Aborn and you make a left on Silver Creek, it becomes King and it's on the right. And it was the only private school on the east side. Yeah. So my kids, my parents sent me to go there, you know, when I was young, because they wanted me to have a pretty good, you know, start, basically. But that start, I stopped at 5th grade. Just that start put me like 3 years ahead of all the other kids when I went to public school, which is crazy. But anyways, so let's get back to talking about your business, right? Because you are the founder and owner of California Vegan Food. So how did that all come about?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I was actually inspired by a familiar snack, right? Ants on a log. And this was when
Ants on a log.
Okay. I was inspired by Ants on a Log because I was really, you know, I was in my early 20s at the time. I've always been, ever since, right, I was 16 and I became vegetarian, I've always been like pretty committed to like eating healthier and trying to solve these social problems of food. Right. And so everybody's like, oh, like we're so busy, like we need to eat fast and we need to eat on the go. So that snack inspired me to think about like, oh, like a breakfast bar. Yeah. And like a breakfast bar, that would be awesome.
I'm sorry, what is Ants on a Log? Because I'm not familiar with it.
Sorry, it's celery, peanut butter, and raisins.
Oh, okay.
Celery, peanut butter.
I've never heard that before. Ants on a Log. Cool. Yeah. Now it makes sense. Yeah.
So that snack, right, celery, peanut butter, raisins, that combination really just kind of like kickstarted this idea of how could we create something that is accessible, that is healthy, that is delicious, and that is like easy to eat on the go. Yeah. Right. And that was like the initial kind of like, oh, this is kind of like the vegan food like format or value system that I started with. Okay. And then over time, I tested out a couple different things. Right. I started with Concha Libre out of the East Bay. I started making pan dulce. Pan dulce, yeah. Conchas.
Yeah. There is not. We need more of that, by the way.
We do.
There's not. The only one I know is like
pan dulce is sweet bread.
The Mexican, you know, the Mexican sweetbreads that are very colorful and they have like swirl designs on it.
It's a little chunk of sugar on top.
Basically a bunch of sugar and milk.
Right.
all the stuff that kill you,
sugar,
right?
sugar.
So you have that in vegan version?
Yeah, so I started,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
there's a lot. So if you guys don't know about Jaguar Baker, then
I've heard of them, but
Yeah.
I've never tried them.
we'll
Yeah.
check them out. So good. So yeah.
Shout
so
out to Jaguar Baker.
Heck yeah, Alicia, we love you.
Yeah.
So essentially, like, I started baking with them, and then realized that like baking wasn't really my thing.
Okay.
And then I was kind of like exploring, like, what are the other, like, what is the thing? You know, what was the vegan problem that I wanted to solve for myself?
Okay.
And so what I would do, and it's funny how you mentioned that you made your own seitan a little while ago, because seitan, right?
That's
is,
a word you got to be very careful with.
because it sounds like Satan, and that's why I don't call it Satan. I call it either
Seitan,
wheat
yeah.
meat or wheat protein.
Oh, wheat meat. I like that.
Oh, okay.
Wheat meat or wheat protein. And so actually my co-founder Miguel, who is from Peru,
Okay.
we met on LinkedIn, which was kind of random.
Okay.
But long story short, he ended up coming to the United States. We worked together while I was working at Vegelution Community Farm. While I was there, I was volunteer program manager, and I would host every first Saturday of the month. We would have these farm days, and a farm day included yoga, included farm volunteering, a cooking class, food truck, youth garden, farm stand, right? So we had like a mini little carnival kind of like set up, and we would have community chefs come in and make stuff. And so I invited him to come make stuff, and he made these cool like little meatballs, and he would make his own seitan, right, which was just a wheat-based meat alternative.
Yeah. Vital wheat gluten.
Vital wheat gluten, that's really all it is. And now there's all this thing about gluten, but we can get
Yeah,
into
unless
that
you're
later.
gluten, you have a gluten sensitivity. Sorry, but
But that's also connected back to the adulteration of the food system in the United
100%.
States. Yeah.
By the way, gluten used to bug me.
Yeah.
When I went vegan, I eat all the gluten in the world. It doesn't bug me anymore. It wasn't the gluten. It was my digestive system was all jacked up from all the other stuff. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Miguel.
Miguel taught me his version of how to make, right, the plant-based meat alternative. And through that knowledge and through that understanding, right, we started working together, testing things out, and I would eat his meat for myself, and that was perfect, right? Because I really didn't enjoy the meat alternatives from the store at the time. Like, they were just so it was funny too, because he had a nephew who went to school at the high school that I was working at the time. I was the admissions coordinator. And so, right, I left that school, started working at Vegelution, and we started just working together and really just like spending time to dream, right? I spent so from the initiation of the ants on the log, the time frame between like the birth of the idea to the execution was 6 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
the vision took 6 years to come to. And by the way, that's awesome that you even were patient enough for that, because most people quit during that time.
Yeah. Yeah, and I knew it's because I knew that was something that I wanted to do. I knew that this was something that I could be good at. You know, I knew this was something that would fuel me, and it does, right? It gives me so much energy, and I have so much passion for it, and I love it so much.
That's
because
awesome.
because it's comparable, you know. So now what we do is we make 2 versions of plant-based meat alternative that has a base of beans, wheat gluten, and almond butter.
Oh wow.
And so people are always like, oh, like, where are you going to get your protein? Well, those 3 things, that's a complete,
a ton of protein right
that's
there.
a complete plant protein. So like bodybuilders out there, like, our
Yeah.
product has the most protein, like good fats, and a really nice amount of
Yeah.
carbohydrates.
Do you guys use pea protein at all?
We don't at the moment, but
Okay.
I do once we get a little bit bigger, and I have like the cash flow to buy like so many ingredients.
So is it more expensive, the pea
Pea
protein?
protein is more expensive,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
and I don't have the capacity to like to work with it right now.
Especially since you're like on a bigger scale, like
Mhm.
you're feeding like a lot of people. You gotta
And
you gotta do what's more economical for the business, right?
absolutely, especially right now, right? Because we're so
Yeah.
small, we're not even 2 years old yet.
Yeah.
So, you know, he really inspired me and helped me to build the vision of what we could accomplish and what we could do. And so it got to the point where, you know, I just decided New Year's 2019, I was like, if I don't start now, I'm never going to start. So I just did it, right? I filled out all the paperwork. I got my
That's
corporation.
exciting. Just take action.
Yep. I just
what we're doing
went,
here.
went
Yeah.
all in. And so I got incorporated in March, made my first sale in May.
That's awesome.
And we've been going ever since.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you guys started with the faux meats.
Yes, we manufacture. That's like our bread and butter.
That's your bread
is
and
the
butter.
faux
Yeah,
meats.
because I think I remember that. Like, when I first started learning about cow food, I didn't know it was you, but I'm glad I found out later it was you.
That's awesome.
But I started seeing like on, I think it was Vegan Veganos was posting a lot about, get these, meats, they come in bulk, I'm like, wow. Because honestly, I agree with you. I think that's the best way to reach people is to give them a meat alternative that's close enough and tasty enough to what they're used to.
Yeah.
Right? Because rice is easy to make, vegetables are easy to make, but then there's how do I get my protein, right? Yeah. Which is kind of silly because in a way, Americans are not protein starved.
No, they're not. Everything has protein.
Everything does.
Everything.
They're fiber starved.
They are fiber deficient, absolutely.
So if you're out there and you're not plant-based and you're wondering why you don't poop or you have issues digesting, or by the way, I don't know, who cares, whatever, it's my podcast, I do whatever I want.
Say what you want.
But I used to have poop, digestive issues, right? And
like only poop once a week, like my mom.
Yeah, I would poop, but it just was not the best experience, right?
Yeah.
And I was bloated all the time.
Yeah.
And I ate healthy. I ate chicken and vegetables
and rice
and this, and I was like, why the heck do I feel like crap all the time?
Yeah.
Right? And now I poop like 6 times a day, like literally, like in the morning it's 3 times, like literally, and like they say welcome to the Bliss Seekers podcast, guys. We're talking about poop. Yes, we are
keeping it real. Yeah,
we're keeping it, but this is important because
it's important.
They're starting to learn about the gut microbiome, which is the most important thing to health, right?
They say it's our brain.
Yeah,
like it's our.
You guys take probiotics?
Yeah, so I don't take probiotics because a plant-based diet is prebiotic.
Yeah,
which is even better than probiotics because it's already doing what it needs to do, so you don't really need but probiotics is good too. Nothing wrong with it too.
Kombucha, awesome.
Yeah, I love kombucha, right?
Absolutely.
Like I don't drink alcohol anymore. Kombucha's like my beer, right? Yeah. Maybe one day we'll have this huge vegan like chain where like instead of like sodas, it's kombuchas. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like out of the tap, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah. Anyways, my digestive issues are gone. I'm regular, and like, anyways, people just Google gut health. It's the most important thing, right? And if you don't have a healthy gut, that means you're lacking fiber. And the standard American diet is 100% lacking fiber.
Absolutely.
It's like meat, cheese, and bread. Where's
starch?
Where's the fiber? You know what I mean?
There's nothing green, right? And you'll hear so many people say, "Oh, I hate everything green." And I just wanna speak on like a family example of the fiber. Yeah. Is that like in my family, and I feel like this is true with a lot of people's family, it's like oh, we don't talk about that, we go to the bathroom. Yeah. Like we're not human beings. Like you have to go to the bathroom, like you go upstairs around the corner and behind on the other side of the street, right? Because that's like something that we don't do. That doesn't make any sense in the world and just shows like how ideologically separate, right, we are from our own biology, from our own being. Like this is our body, this is our machine, like this is our car. Like why wouldn't we want to treat it with like the best food? Why wouldn't we want it to operate in the best ways? Right? And so my mom 2 years ago, right, when she became disabled from Parkinson's, I worked on her digestive process, and it was amazing because she went from only using the restroom 1 time a week, literally 1 time a week. That's crazy. Yeah. And all I had to do was give her a little bit of cucumbers, a little bit of lettuce, some avocado, just like some green vegetables. Some greens, every day. Wow. Once a day. I bet you she feels amazing too. Yeah, it was beautiful. I mean, she didn't follow it because I'm not making the food for her anymore, you know, so she's not following it now. But it just goes to show like how quickly you can change things. And once you have that initial change, everything else is just, it's like a domino effect in your body, because we are really meant to be plant-based. Like people say, oh, we have canines. Yeah. These aren't canines. It's what they call them because they want you to think that we're meant to eat meat. But no, we don't lunge at cows and, bite their fur off. I would love to see some carnivore go do that and be successful. You'll have some, don't say that, because you'll have some idiot out there listening to this podcast and be like, watch me. Don't do it and be an idiot and just have some compassion and eat some veggies. But it is true. Like I just tell people, you don't love meat. Yeah. You love the texture and the idea of it, right? Because I made the seitan, right? And I mean, I'm still perfecting it, right? But
it's not exactly like meat, but I mean, if I gave it to like my non-vegan friends and they're like, wow, this is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
And like, because the meat just takes the flavor of the spices and whatever you cook it with. So
they're not going to eat it raw.
Yeah. If you really love meat, you'd eat it raw with no seasoning or like even
Uncooked.
boiled. People don't even like boiled chicken. Because it doesn't really have flavor.
It's too dry.
Yeah, it's just like bland and whatever. Because you don't like the chicken, you don't like the meat, you like the actual spices and the way it's cooked and everything.
Exactly.
Anyways, we can go off.
No, but it's true. And so, just kind of like speaking on what we've done at the farmers market, because you know we've been at the farmers market now for 9 months. In the first year of our operation, so I guess we're like. Yeah, we're almost 2 years old next March.
Congratulations.
California Vegan will be 2 years old. We made it through the first year.
There you go.
And we did pretty well. And thank you so much I have to give a shout out to Ivana and to Marcos, and to my sister-in-law, Maria, and to my brother-in-law, Fermin, for being volunteers with us, and Cheque. Thank you so much, Cheque, for putting in the time, right? When we didn't have the money to pay people. They really did put in their time. So quick acknowledgement for them. But first year we ran kind of like a festival circuit. We went to so many different festivals, all of the vegan and vegetarian festivals that we could go to possibly. And then I really felt like my community wants consistency. Right? Wants me to be in one place where they know I'm going to be and they know they can get the food that they want. So I decided and made the best business decision yet to start a farmer's market back in December.
Oh, wow.
But I didn't know it was going to be successful because in December, this particular farmer's market, the Greater Rose Garden Farmer's Market across the street from Lincoln High School in San Jose, California, this farmer's market was only like 5 vendors big.
Wait, the Rose Garden, is that in Willow Glen?
It's in... I don't know. That's not technically Willow Glen. Technically, it's the Rose
It's
Garden.
not close to the school you went to when you were young, is it?
It kind of.
Oh, that's kind of interesting.
Right?
You all went full circle.
Exactly. No, I'm like in a very similar place. True. So being at the farmers market in December, January, and February was a little bit depressing because it was so tiny, right?
Yeah.
It was not very well attended, and so I was at the point where like, oh my God, you know, like we're a baby business, and you think like, oh, farmers market, like of course, like people are gonna be there, but for whatever, all kinds of reasons, they weren't. And then COVID happened.
Yeah.
When COVID happened, farmers market became essential. All the big farmers market closed. And now our farmers market is 25 plus vendors.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it was actually a positive thing for you guys.
It was a positive thing. We're growing. We continue to grow.
Awesome.
And we are just getting like the most amazing culmination of vendors. This week, if you don't know about Sepatli, she does ancient grain like tortillas, like blue corn.
Cool.
Yeah, like she is going to buy like a tortilla factory.
Where can people find Sepatli?
They can find her this Saturday at the
Okay.
Greater Rose Garden.
We'll let you
Farmers
pump that
Market.
up at the end of the podcast,
Heck
right?
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's just like so many amazing vendors that are coming to our farmers market, and we've really like we've made the community, you know, and we do like typical Mexican food, you know, we make taqueria style foods, we do tacos, burritos, tortas, and that has been what's really taken up the most of this year. And you know, we manufacture our product ourselves in a commercial kitchen here in San Jose, and the wheat gluten for the celiacs, or the people who think they're sensitive, the wheat gluten actually comes from Holland, and so Holland, they don't have GMOs.
Oh, wow.
And so I have organic wheat gluten from Holland.
How do you get that?
Through a vegan distributor.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, check it out, guys. She's got it from Holland, so definitely got to get your wheat gluten from her.
Heck
Holland, yeah. That's awesome. So I wanted to ask you real quick, because you mentioned your business partner. I didn't know you had a partner, business partner, but
Oh, he's a co-founder.
co-founder. So he's from Peru.
He's from Peru.
How did he become vegan? Was he already vegan from coming from Peru, or did he learn that here?
No, coming from Peru, he was already vegan, and
Oh, that's
he has
interesting.
an incredible story as well.
We definitely got to get him on here for sure.
Yeah,
Definitely
it
will.
would be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't speak English, but definitely when he's in the country,
I
that
speak
would be
Spanish,
awesome.
but it's very horrible.
He's not in the country
so-
right now?
Okay. No, he's in Peru.
Oh, he's in
Oh,
Peru now.
okay.
Yeah, so he went back into Peru. He only had like a 6-month visa to come
Oh,
here,
okay.
right? He came here two spurts of 6 months, right? And then he went back there. But what's amazing about him being there is that he's really able to like take the name, like he has California Vegan Food Company in Peru right now.
Wow.
It's amazing.
So you're growing in 2 countries.
We're growing in 2 countries.
It's a blessing in disguise.
Technically, it really is.
Yeah.
And so I'm so excited. You know, right now we're both super small and we're figuring it out.
That's where it all starts.
It is where it all starts. And I feel like, especially in this climate, you know, like we're going to grow inevitably. So it's just about like, you know, keeping it up. And really what I wanted to emphasize also was like the investment of my team and the investment of my, I don't even call them employees. I call them my team.
Yeah.
Right. Because an employee infers a superiority complex.
100%. Yeah.
And I don't, like, yes, I am the boss, so to speak. But at the same time, like, they are leaders. Right.
Yeah.
They are leaders just as I am a leader. I just so happen to have a series of different leadership experience.
Right.
That has allowed me, right, to pursue like owning and managing a business. But at the same time, I want to invest in them and their dreams so that they can do everything that we're saying here.
You're definitely a leader. I can already see
You're
it.
a leader of compassion.
Yes,
Seriously.
absolutely.
And that's true because I take the same approach to this,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like ever since I started, I never wanted it to be just about me. Like I want to help other people springboard. And I understand, and I learned from my previous CEO that if you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, you go with the team.
Yep.
Right. And this, I mean, obviously I appreciate everybody that's helped me out and the people part of the team. And that's part of abundant thinking.
Mm-hmm.
You know, scarcity thinking is I'm the boss and there's not enough for everybody. I'm going to keep you down and da. But abundant thinking is like, yeah, let's go. Let's do this. Like there's going to be enough for everybody anyway. So it doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And I just have a certain set of skills that I bring to the table. And so do they, you know, they have skills that I don't have, you know, and that's how you really go far is you put, you know, because the power of building the team is your weaknesses are irrelevant all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Because you surround yourself with people who are strong where you are not.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can just focus on doing what you're good at. They focus on doing what they're good at. And I love how you create this culture of it's all of us together, you know? And that just, then they try harder, they feel part of something. And so that's awesome. Like, where did that come from? Where'd you learn that? Because you have a lot of leadership and, you know, what you did is you cast the vision, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm the visionary. I'm the strategic thinker. I also really enjoy like organization and efficiency. So I love to make processes efficient. I love to build systems.
So you guys operate pretty smooth then?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say
100%. That's awesome.
that's just my my love for like organization. Like I love things to be in their place.
So are you a very structured person?
I mean, I feel like a lot of people would say I am, but then my leniency towards, you know, quote unquote perfectionism is not like, it's not as like perfect as it is, because I also want to be very fluid, right? I can't be as rigid or else I'm not free.
Yeah. So there's a lot of action in you too as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's why you started your venture, and you know, that's where you're at now. Well, that's awesome. And you said something earlier too, which I'm very impressed, and I mean, I love when I see, especially young people, or especially even, you know, Latinos or Hispanic people that think differently. And you mentioned, I want to take care of generations. Most people are thinking about the weekend.
Yeah.
You're thinking about your kids. Where did that come from?
I think so. A big part of it is really acknowledging, like, although I grew up with a very separate family, like my family was not united. My family was not,
I don't know if that's Hispanic families, but I feel the same thing with mine
right?
too. Yeah.
Like everybody has something against each
Like
other,
pride.
and everybody's
Ego
always
and
talking
pride.
shit.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just like, it's all kinds of bullshit,
Yeah.
right? So there's just been like all kinds of bullshit, and recognizing that, and then going backwards to see like behind the bullshit there is suffering, right?
Yeah.
There is pain, there is struggle.
Yeah.
And so I acknowledge the struggle of my ancestors, and because I was born as an only child, because I was born in a middle income house,
Middle class, yeah.
right, middle class house, I have a divine responsibility to use that for something good.
Right.
You know, not to like, okay, and I don't want to
Go ahead.
stereotype, but you know what, like I'm not gonna go get fake boobs, get an implant, you know, like make my ass bigger so that I can, I don't know, shake on a pole or something, you know. I'm not gonna, and not to say that there's anything wrong with that, because, you know, you do you. whoever you are, but at the same time, like who are those actions serving?
Yeah.
You know, what is a mansion in the East Hills? What good is that going to do for you? You're creating your own prison.
Right.
You know, you're not contributing to your community. You're not making people happy. Like, I am just of the mind, like California Vegan Food Co.'s motto is healthy planet, happy people. Right?
That's awesome.
So
what is it again?
Healthy planet, happy people.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah.
We make this planet healthier. Inevitably, we're going to make the people happier.
Mm-hmm.
Also the animals.
Yes. And right, and healthy planet, that is the animals too.
Yeah.
We want them to be happy, and the animals in and of themselves. And this is so funny. Like, when I talk about veganism, I never lead with animal liberation.
Yeah.
I never lead with animals because people get all like, like, oh, you're so, you know, like soft, and that's weak, and that's this or that's that, and they have so many judgments about the animals. But if you lead with like the economy, like, and if we look at how subsidized the meat and the dairy industry is, if we look at how much of our tax dollars are actually going towards making meat seem cheaper when it comes out of McDonald's drive-through,
right,
it's all just a lie.
Yeah.
It's all just
a huge
joke.
lie. Yeah.
We're not giving to, you know, the small farmer in Salinas who is an immigrant coming here to you know, like, make a better life for his family. That's not what you're supporting. Right? What you're supporting is a giant corporation that has literally taken over the world and ruined food systems and communities all over the place.
And just think about the animals. Like, I don't even like to watch the documentaries of factory farming and stuff. Like
Earthlings.
Yeah. So I haven't even watched it because I'll literally be like traumatized.
Yeah.
Like, so funny story. Like, when I was in college back in 2003, I was a self-proclaimed carnivore. Mm-hmm. Like, I loved meat, mm-hmm. and I loved steak,
yep.
and I could eat just meat, you know? Mm-hmm. So for all you people out there hating on me for being vegan, I'm a reformed, I don't know what you call it, freaking carnivore. But anyways, so I had to do a project. It was a debate, right? And I don't know why, but I got chosen to be factory farms. And I had no clue. I was just eating my meat, loving the stuff that was making me feel like crap all the time. And that's another thing. Your body's telling you. Food coma.
Screaming at you.
Food coma is like, your body's like, what the hell are you doing to me?
Overload.
I don't like this. You know what I mean? But we're conditioned to think that's normal.
Down.
Right? So anyways, before I run off on a tangent over here, back to, so I had to watch videos on factory farming.
Yeah.
And I literally was traumatized. Like, I was like, this is how my meat gets to, like, I was like, I don't want to eat meat anymore. And this wasn't, obviously, the pressure and all that was too strong because I didn't have no support from anybody. And I mean, shoot, this was 2003. So this was, what is it, 17 years ago? No.
Yeah.
17, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I know.
17 years ago.
17.
Aging myself here. So 17 years ago was pretty difficult. But you went vegan 13 years ago, or you're vegetarian 13
years ago. Yeah.
That must have been pretty tough. But anyways,
it was really tough.
Yeah, so you're pretty strong. So anyways, I did this debate, and like literally I was traumatized, and I was like, so my whole point to that is, if everybody who eats meat, I wish they had to watch a video on how that hamburger got there. I guarantee you, if people really understood how that meat got there and what the animal goes through, they would at least think twice.
They wouldn't do it. Well, you know, not everybody is a psychopath or a narcissist.
Yeah.
You know, not everybody is going to look at something else suffering and say, no, that's cool.
No.
Like, I enjoy this. Let's do that some more. Like, no, you're going to think, oh my God, I don't want to be treated like that. I don't want them to cut my beak off so I can't kill my neighbor. I don't want them to, you know, pump me up with all of these chemicals so that I'm so fat that I can't walk and my legs break. Like, this is not the way.
So you brought something up.
Yep.
The average size of a chicken now is like a 600-pound human. Yeah. From the actual meat and the journey it takes to get to our plate, you know? Honestly, like, all the stuff I've watched, I cannot even, I mean, I don't know. I just can't watch it, and I don't even see myself ever going back to meat ever after that.
No, I mean, once you're full vegan and you know the benefits and you you decondition yourself from that need, because I do feel like it's like a chemical addiction to flesh.
Yeah.
Right, because there's a piece about it. I used to eat my steak medium rare, and like when it bleeded, and it's the way that like it feels when you eat it. I feel like that's why Impossible Foods went to the lengths that it went to bioengineer something that smelt, looked, tasted right, and essentially it is a piece of meat. But the thing that I want to say is that it's the examples and everything that we are expressing about factory farming in America specifically, right, it's not the same in every single country, right? And this is a lot why I feel like Hispanics and Filipinos, right, they come from a place where, if you're in your little pueblito and you have the butcher up the street, they killed the animal that morning.
Right.
And you're using every single piece of that animal and distributing it within the community, and that is a sustainable process.
Yeah.
Right. And so same like in the Philippines, like it's just a very different dynamic. And so that's the part that like it's hard for me, because this is what my parent-in-laws feel. They feel that like, oh yeah, we're here and we're just doing the same things that we would do if we're in Mexico. And I'm like, guys, but it's not the same.
Right.
They don't process it the same. They don't treat it the same. They don't feed it the same. It doesn't live the same. Living in little confined spaces that literally makes them go crazy.
Yeah, they're depressed. Like you could see the pigs, they look like they want to kill themselves. You know, like
and
literally.
they try to, and they try to kill each other, because it's a miserable life. So not only are you eating this meat that is adulterated so much to the point where like we actually get sick, and 80% of all antibiotics in this country, it goes to the animals so they don't get sick because of their living conditions, but we are energetically receiving all of that pain and all of that suffering,
all that trauma.
So it's no it's no wonder why we have such a sick society.
You guys ever seen like chicken fighting? Was it rooster fight?
Cockfighting.
Cockfighting.
Yeah.
Sorry, cockfighting.
We're talking about the animals, guys. Relax.
Yeah, I was in the Philippines, and that was a normal thing. And I remember I want to watch it, but I can't even watch it. I could not stay there for too long. It was just so brutal. And and again, I was conditioned. My parents didn't know any better. So, whenever there's food on the plate, I don't complain about it, whatever it was. So I grew up eating, waking up for breakfast, eating rice and meat.
Yeah. And in poor countries, like, of course, where you're going to sit there and be like, I'm not going to eat this because blah, 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 blah. Of course, they have to survive. And then you reminded me of something that I wanted to make a point. Even when the cavemen ate meat, number one, they didn't eat a lot. They didn't have it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Number two, they were hunting for weeks, sometimes days, sometimes weeks, not eating. That's where fasting comes in our actual genetic makeup, right? And then when they finally killed the animal, sometimes they would have a ceremony to thank the animal and like, thank you for giving your life to feed our and then they would split it with the whole village. Like they literally had a little piece. Maybe the chief got like what they thought was the most juicy piece or whatever, but they weren't having a 15-ounce T-bone steak. They weren't having like 2 pounds of chicken. They were having very little pieces of meat, and most of them, that's all they could survive on. Like, because I look at these shows like Naked and Afraid and all this kind of stuff, and they're plopped on an island that does not have the resources to grow vegetables. Like they literally have to go and kill whatever they can, or they're going to die themselves. Exactly. So in that point, I get it. But guess what? It's 2020. It's not like BC. Like
live in that.
You're not naked on the island trying to survive. Like there's so many things out there that they can help you. And the last thing I want to say about this is, like you said, we're all energy. If we're all connected, and we're doing this to animals, like it's gonna get us eventually, right? Why are we in this pandemic? I don't even know if it's the truth, but supposedly it's because people were eating animals they weren't supposed to eat.
It's one of the
and
things.
then there's some type of virus that was in the animal and goes, ooh, a new host. Let me adapt to this. And all of a sudden we have this disease that's, caused the whole world to shut down because we're eating animals that we're not supposed to eat. So so here's the thing. If somebody smoked one cigarette and they got cancer the next day, they wouldn't smoke cigarettes.
Nope.
If somebody drank one drink of alcohol and their liver fucking collapsed the next day, they wouldn't drink alcohol. The problem with food is that you don't eat a hamburger one day and you get fat or obesity or diabetes or stroke the next day.
Yeah, it takes time.
The best analogy I heard about this is like, so let's say, like, you know, have you ever woken up and banged your knee on the bed or your toe and it hurts like hell? Well, imagine banging your toe for breakfast, banging your toe for snack, banging your toe for lunch, banging your toe for dinner, bang, 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 bang. 30, 40 years later, your body goes, I quit.
Yep.
I can't heal myself anymore. You keep doing damage to me, and that's where chronic disease comes in.
Yeah.
Right? Because our body is like the most amazing machine in the world. It can regenerate and heal itself.
Absolutely.
But if you keep putting the crap, you keep injuring yourself on the inside. And that's another thing. We don't see it on the inside.
No.
We just think, oh, we're gaining weight or oh, whatever. Maybe half of that's inflammation. You know what I mean? And so that's the inherent issue with all this kind of stuff that really hurts us, is that it takes time, and it takes a long time, and then it becomes a habit, and then it becomes like ingrained in our culture, and then it's, you know, and then next thing you know, this happens. But there has to be something said that in this Western society, 2 out of 3 people over 60 are going to need some form of long-term care in their life. So that's 75% of people are going to get sick.
Yep.
That should tell you something right there.
Yeah, and we're just like okay with that.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
No.
And really, the piece I want to emphasize, because I also I dislike, you know, the radical vegan that hates everybody because of the way that they are. We have to meet people where they're at. We have to understand, right, that not everybody has the experiences we have. You know, like my husband is not vegan.
Right.
He eats like 85% vegan, but he still has his own conditioning, and he still is not awakened to the lot of the things that we've been talking about here today.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And
how does that affect your guys' dynamic?
I mean, it's not bad actually, because he's willing to learn. Right?
As long as he's open to, that's great.
And it's really just about like meeting people where they're at and educating them or learning with them, or also just showing them by your own actions, right? Leading with your own actions.
100%. Because I was like you, like every vegan. You know, I think it's just because they become so passionate about it, because they feel how much it's changed your life.
And they know that like if everybody was vegan, we would live in such a better world, but we have to build a bridge. And that's what I believe California Vegan Food Company is it is a bridge. Right. So that the people who I call flesh centric, they can take baby steps over the bridge if they so desire. Right. And another piece about it too is like, you know, I work for a nonprofit as well. I'm a fundraiser for Kitchen Table Advisors, and we serve farmers, organic vegetable farmers, and pasture-raised livestock farmers. And it's great, right? Pasture-raised is awesome, but we learned in Cowspiracy that it doesn't matter how many pasture-raised farms you have, you are never going to generate the amount of animals to meet the demand on this earth. Right. And what you said about, you know, that village that killed that one animal and shared it between everybody, the amount that they ate was tiny.
Yeah, it was like insignificant almost.
So we cannot continue to sustain the health of our planet. We're actually killing our planet. Our planet's not healthy at all. We see it. We're in the Bay Area. What's happening? Yeah. Fires, crazy, drought, right? Everything.
Oh, global warming is fake. There's just California's just on fucking fire.
Everything is falling apart. And our diet is such an important, it's not at all the only piece, because there's so many other pieces of like, you know, industry and transportation and like so many other pieces that contribute to it. But
it's probably one of the largest, actually.
It is. It's like, it's 18%, right? I think transportation is 13% according to Cowspiracy.
Well, and thanks to Tesla and Elon Musk, that's going to be changing soon.
Heck yeah. We're all excited about renewable energy. But right, it's the amount of meat that we make acceptable. I think that is the ultimate bridge maker, is reducing the amount of meat that we perceive is good, right? Because we cannot eat meat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We can't. We should be having it once a month or once every 2 months at most in order to really build upon like a sustainable food system.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And I want to say something about the planet. So I used to say that too. We're killing the planet. And then I have a good friend of mine. I want to have her on the podcast. She's like, we're not killing the planet. We're killing our ability to survive on this planet. Earth is going to be here when we're long gone.
That's true.
It went through an ice age. It went through, the dinosaurs became all extinct from an asteroid. People, listen to me. If you're listening to this out there, we're not killing Earth. Earth is killing us. We're a virus. When you get sick and you get a fever, what is that doing? Your body is killing the virus. So it raises the temperature inside your body so the virus can die and it cannot live. We're not killing Earth. Earth is going to be here many, many thousands of years after we're gone. We're killing our ability to survive on this planet.
That is true.
So if you truly care about your kids, your grandkids, and their future, do something about it. I mean, if you don't care about animals and you don't care about your health, at least care about this rock in the middle of the space that we're living on, because maybe cockroaches are going to live for the next 10,000 years, and insects.
They most likely.
Yeah,
so many animals
because we're not going to survive on here.
No.
But those little nasty cockroaches will still be around. Sharks have been around longer than trees. You know what I mean? So
mushrooms has been around longer than everything.
Ooh, there's some
else.
Interesting kind of mushrooms out there too.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a different podcast. But yeah, we're not killing the planet.
Yeah.
We're just killing our ability to live on it. So
Well,
if you love this planet, do something about it.
I mean, I would have to say also we're killing our ability to live optimally on the planet.
100%. Yeah.
Right? And because of that, the planet is so angry.
Yeah.
So upset. And people are going to be like, what? What do you mean? The planet doesn't have feelings. The planet is energy, just like we are.
Yeah.
Just like all of the elements are energy.
Yeah.
Like you can't put fire in your hand and not get burned, right? Because that's an exchange of energy. And so the planet is extremely upset at the way that we are treating it. And because of that, it is killing us back.
And there's a karma, I guess. The way we're treating animals. Where do you think COVID came from?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it did. Maybe it didn't. There's all these conspiracy theories out there. But the bottom line is most of these huge pandemic diseases came from us eating things we're not supposed to eat.
Mad cow disease, all of that.
And it's not
You've never heard of like mad
virus.
broccoli disease or something like that, right? What was that?
Well, it's not natural. All these viruses, I don't believe it's natural.
No.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Well, they normally live in those animals, and the animals can live with those diseases, but humans cannot live with those diseases. The animals are kind of adapted over time to be able to survive with those kind of viruses in them. But you start eating monkeys and bush meat and all this crazy stuff, and it's going to eventually transfer to us because we're all connected. Like I was watching this documentary on ayahuasca, and it had Dorian Yates, who used to be a professional bodybuilder, and now he's like big into ayahuasca and healing himself. They said that when you harm a tree through the roots, it talks to the other trees and says, hey, there's danger coming, like protect yourself.
Yeah.
So is it really a tree, or is it something that's all connected?
Yeah. Well, it's a sentient being with a very expansive root system, right? And
Yeah.
those root systems are like the veins of the planet. And I think it was Marcus Aurelius who quoted, like, as long as man continues to kill animals, they will justify the murder and destruction of humans.
Yeah.
Because we dehumanize humans and call them animals in order to justify, right, the torture and just absolute decimation of all of them. So it sounds, and like I've always been really conscious of like not sounding like hippie or not sounding like whatever, but at the end of the day, like, do we want to live or not?
Yeah.
Do we want to do we want to live or not? And how do we want to live? Because we can say we want to live in peace, right, in harmony. We want to live in a place where everybody has the opportunity. And I'm not trying to say I'm a communist either, but I don't believe that capitalism is inherently wrong, just like communism isn't inherently wrong. It's just the way that the crooked leadership decides to lead, and they're leading without compassion. Right? They're leading without love. They're leading only thinking about how they are going to get ahead rather than the collective.
Yeah, they're mortgaging the future for the now, and it's just all leadership. Like, I don't know. I think it has to do with us being so disconnected, but it's very true. There's a huge lack of leadership, and everything falls and ends on leadership.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you mentioned that you wanted to be the bridge,
Mm-hmm.
and that's through your company. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, my goal, right? One of my goals, I have many goals. I'm a very ambitious person. I really want to be at first, right? The first vegan or vegetarian option in every taqueria and every taco truck in San Jose.
Okay.
And because I really want to demystify all of the myths, right, that there are around veganism for people of color.
Okay.
Right, and it's not just that taquerias are for Latino people, right? Everybody loves Mexican food.
Of course, right.
But you go to any Mexican restaurant and your vegan or vegetarian options are kind of like
A bean burrito, that's about it.
and you're bored and you're not fulfilled and it's not fun and you're like, no, I want that piece of steak, I want the carne asada, I want el pastor.
Yeah.
But in actuality, if we had one option, right, and we started with one way, especially now because the prices of meat are going up substantially. Like my coworker told me that arrachera, which is like a prepared meat or whatever, it's coming up to like $10 a pound.
Wow.
And Raza is still buying it. They're still doing that. So, the plant-based protein, just because we're small and I don't have a big factory, our protein is around $10 a pound too. So we're getting to the point where it's comparable, and it's comparable on a financial level.
There you
So I'm really excited because I wanna heal my parents.
Yeah.
I want to heal my friends' parents. I know there's so many people who are suffering from the same things that we've experienced, and we don't need to lose our family members early on. You lost your grandma before you even had a chance to really get to know her.
I was 5 years old.
Right? I never had a grandfather because both of them died of diabetes and other, right? You never had a grandfather. So what does that do to us on a psychological and emotional level?
Yeah.
Right? It disconnects us from our lineage.
My memory of my grandfather was he had no legs because he gangrene. They had to chop off his legs. I only met him a couple times, and my only memory of my grandfather is him being in so much pain, pulling himself out of his bed with like a bar above it and getting in a wheelchair. That's my memory of my grandfather. My other one passed away before I was even like old enough to remember. Right. So yeah, I mean, if you're, and by the way, I just want to, my parents, they listen to this podcast, so they're going to hear this too, right? But the reason they made a change was because my father was always different. He was like a leader. He always knew if it's good for him and his family, he's going to make the change right away. But they went to Mexico and they hiked up a big mountain and they were like so out of breath.
Yeah.
And they were like, what? Like they thought it was just the altitude or whatever. They came back home and they got some tests and their blood pressure was super high. Their cholesterol was super high. So my dad, being the leader, proactive, different thinker, it was like, because they wanted to put my dad on meds. Because obviously Western medicine, what do they do?
Yep. Pills,
give you some meds
pills.
to make you a lifelong customer and fat, sick, and nearly dead, like the show, right? But my dad's like, hell no, I'm not taking meds. Now I'm coming back here in 3 months and I'm going to figure out a way to fix myself, right? Well, the universe put that book in his hands and the rest is history. Literally 3 months later, everything was below normal.
That's amazing.
3 months.
I love
and now like my dad's 67 years old and the dude's like running around because they retired in Hawaii, right? Running around the beach, doing hikes. Again, that's another thing. Like we could talk about that maybe another time, but I want to have my dad on the podcast. My dad is always a forward thinker, you know? But every day they're hiking, running on the beach, and they're 65 and 67. But my dad's about to be 68. My mom's about to be 66. And they're healthier than they've ever been, besides being young, right?
Yeah.
And I'm so happy. So, Rosa's parents, if you're listening out there, talk to my parents or learn from their example. Like you don't have to be sick. You don't have to be unhealthy. You don't, and just because you're Hispanic or Filipino or whatever, it's not, you don't have to be like that. It's a choice. Yeah, it's going to be very difficult maybe to make changes, but anything worth having in life is is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Anything worth having in life is difficult.
And what I want to tell everybody's parents is like, it's hard to change habits, right? It's hard because you grow up and you have these memories of these things, and you're like, oh my God, you know, like with the Lucky Charms, or, you know, with all of the cereals. I mean, don't we all, like, you walk in that aisle in the grocery store and you're like, oh my, but you know it's not good for you. And so
with me, it's like chocolate. Yeah.
And with me, it's chips. But you know,
me too.
I'm both, actually, chips and chocolate.
But my parents, what I want for them, and I do believe that it's never too late, but what I want to tell other people's parents is you need to do what it takes.
Yeah.
You need to do what it takes. And if that is changing your diet, that's fine. Do it very slowly. Progressive change is the way to win. You can't change overnight.
Yeah, baby
but what
steps.
you do meatless Mondays, right? You do that for 3 months. Meatless Mondays. Okay, I got this on Mondays. I got my little, my little rhythm. I know what to make. I've been doing this. And then maybe you do 2 days.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Then maybe you do 3 days.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, right?
Yeah.
And then you just end up having meat once a week, once a month, once a quarter. That's exactly how I started eating. I stopped eating McDonald's because I was such a big McDonald's girl when I was little.
Really?
Chicken nuggets. Double cheeseburger.
Chicken nuggets,
what's the
if those are even chicken, I don't know.
McChicken, Big Macs, right?
My biggest thing was the breakfast.
Ooh.
I know how to make a really good sausage egg McMuffin vegan now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. But you know, the Big Macs. So I really had to wean myself off of a Big Mac. And what did I do? I said, okay, I'm only going to have 4 Big Macs this year. Every quarter. I would wait.
Yeah.
I would be so excited. Oh my God. Oh my God. Like I'm doing so good, you know, and I would be like doing my best to exercise and whatever. I would have my 1 Big Mac every 3 months. And for the first year, it was awesome. Every 3 months, I was so excited. I like celebrated, but I was still like vegetarian, right? But then I would treat myself to a Big Mac every 3 months.
Yeah.
Okay. The second year, 3 Big Macs a year. The third year, 2 Big Macs a year. The fourth year, 1 Big Mac the whole year, and I didn't even want it at that point. I was like, I'm done. I don't need this anymore. And
your body changes.
lo and behold, I will never step into McDonald's again.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You
Congratulations, right?
Like you condition yourself, like you train yourself. That's why it took me like almost 10 years to become vegan.
Exactly.
Step by step.
Like, I mean, I was 39 when I made the change. I mean, you can't make up 39 years in a couple months. You know what I mean? Like,
Not at all.
Like I went pescatarian and then vegetarian and then I went vegan. But I think, for some reason my dad never let us eat fast food. And I remember when I was like 13, we used to have like the Twinkies and the Kool-Aid, and I came home one day, everything was gone. And then all we had was like some watered down iced tea. My dad stopped cooking with manteca and started cooking with olive oil, and he just made this change. I mean, so he was always conscious about health.
Manteca is pork grease.
Yes, lard.
Lard.
You guys know manteca is freaking straight up
I
pork
didn't know what it was.
fat. Yeah. But that's traditional Mexican cooking, right? Because it makes it more flavorful.
And then you put it in the jar right next to it, and then you have this real nice white, thick.
Yeah, and that stuff stays in you. It's funny. There was this comedian on the radio, and he's like, man, I got a stroke when I was freaking 12. He's like, Mom, I was like, gonna have a popsicle, and your mom's like, mijo, you want the popsicle? Here, throw it in there. Let me fry it up for you. You want some salad? Throw it in there. Let me fry it up for you. He's like, I had to call in sick when I was 12 because I had a stroke and my left side wasn't working. Anyways.
Oh my God.
My dad has always been conscious, and I'm glad he did that because I never developed the sweet tooth and I never developed the fast food addiction, which I think if I would have had those two, like it would have been maybe even 10 times more difficult to change. You know what I mean? So that's very, very powerful what you're doing. And, I see one day, hopefully that, we make a huge dent or at least impact in not just our community, but all communities, because you know what? I understand people, it's hard to get rid of your food. I understand it's hard to get rid of your culture, but you're not losing your culture.
Not at all.
The only thing you're going to miss out on, so you're still going to have the same flavor, maybe a little different, but the only thing you're going to miss out on is chronic illness, bloated, digestive issues, and maybe losing a loved one a little bit sooner than you need to.
Depression,
food coma.
Food coma, yeah.
It's all wrapped up together, and I think it's the emotional diseases that people don't ever contribute to their food.
Right.
And that's the part that is hard for me. I have so many friends that have overactive thyroids, and they're kind of at the point where like, oh, I'm going to be extremely overweight forever. You know, the doctor tells me this or that. And, you know, if you just go on the internet and you say like how to heal my thyroid with plant medicine, like, you'll find it. I have an Audible audiobook and I haven't listened to it yet, but I'm going to, because I really want to help my community. I really want to help everybody who struggles. You know, there's so many people, and it's not to say that like, because I think another misconception too is that like, oh, being overweight is bad, and it's not. Like you can be thick as fuck.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, right?
Yeah.
And it's beautiful and it's great. But if you're not healthy,
Right.
if you're not able to climb that stairs, if you're not able to run for like a minute, you know, if you're not able to exert yourself to the point that like you can play with your nephews, so that you can like go into that jumpy house, you know, and you can actually like exert yourself and get your blood flow moving, if that's something that's difficult for you, then you have a problem.
Yeah. 100%. Because it's not just about living, it's about quality of life.
Yep.
You know? And one thing real quick, I want to go back and then we'll start wrapping this up. But so the way I got my parents to kind of make a change is because, so my parents were really good parents and everything was all about their kids, right? Which I don't think that's a good thing. Because the longest relationship you're ever going to have is the one with your spouse.
Yeah.
Your kids are going to grow up one day. They're going to find their own wife and husband or whatever. And they're going to leave and they're going to have their own family. But guess who you're stuck with for the rest of your life? If you choose to stay married and all that kind of stuff. 'Cause nowadays it's like getting a new car, you know? But my parents have been married 45 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time. Like I haven't even lived that long. Like they've been together longer than I've been alive. Right. And so my sister's already married with her family. I'm not married yet, but eventually I'm going to have my own family, and they have to get along. So the way I got them to kind of start thinking about, because they both had retired and they never really learned how to like get along. Like they were arguing like every day. And I remember one time I just told them, I go, stop. I go, this is what mom is saying. This is what dad is saying. You guys don't listen to each other. You better learn how to like each other, because you don't have work and kids to keep you busy. And they kind of like woke up, and I go, by the way, your life is not over. What about your grandkids? Don't you want to be around and be like good when your grandkids are around?
Yeah.
And they just kind of like, they woke up. They're like, you're right. We still have like a whole second wave of our life, which is grandkids, which is retirement, which is like, I mean, anyways. So if you want to reach your parents or the older generation, like, don't make it about you. Make it about your grandkids. Because if once they start thinking like that, they go, oh, well, I need to be alive and healthy for my grandkids. Because like you said, if I'm not, how am I going to play with them? Like, you know, and yeah, so that's kind of how I reached my parents. Is I made them realize that their life's not over. Like there's a whole, hopefully it's not, right? And another thing is I had a friend who went to the emergency room. I hate hospitals, by the way, but I was stuck in the emergency room helping her out because she thought she was having a heart attack or whatever. It was just indigestion.
Oh.
But they said indigestion can be so bad, like acid reflux can be so bad you feel like you're having a heart attack.
Oh, wow.
But again, here's a person that's on the standard American diet, right? So, but I was there and there was just so much sadness and death and sickness. And they're feeding these people like they're sick and they're still getting them like sodas and chicken nuggets. Like they're basically sick and they're like, here, have more stuff to keep you sick or basically be sicker. And I'm thinking, okay, I have two options. I could continue to eat however I want to eat, and I could end up here when I'm older and popped up on pills and this, or I could do the best I can. There's still no guarantee, but I could do the best I can to be old, but be happy and healthy. And so it looks like we'll go ahead and start wrapping this up. But I think you have some questions, Joe.
I do. You talk about intermittent fasting. I actually have been doing juice cleansing. Have you ever done that?
Absolutely.
How many days?
I've only done like three day spurts. I haven't done any of the really long, like 2 week long spurts.
What kind of changes did you feel? And did you make your own juices or you bought them?
No, I absolutely made my own juices.
Yeah, I made mine too.
Yeah.
Actually. And you've been to the Philippines.
I have been to the Philippines.
How was that?
It was amazing. And so this was actually an example of when like I was in college, right? I had been vegetarian since I was in high school. Right, in college, I did an immersion trip to the Philippines, to Cambodia, and to Thailand to study human trafficking.
Oh, wow.
And while we were there, right, we would visit with nonprofit organizations, tribes. We would go around, visit, and really hear the stories and understand their experiences of human trafficking, right, labor trafficking, sex trafficking, all of the things. And so when I was in Southeast Asia and I sat down with a tribe, and, you know, they had literally like slaughtered the cow in the backyard and, right, like gone through the process. And I couldn't in that moment say, oh, no, I can't eat that because I'm a vegetarian.
That's like a tricky situation.
That is the ultimate sign of disrespect.
Yeah, you're basically saying like F you to your face.
Exactly. So I ate meat while I was there, and in the Philippines, like fell in love with the country, fell in love with the people, fell in love with the language. Like I swear I would be listening so hard, like I'm gonna understand.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
It's
know.
very close to Spanish. Tagalog is. Tagalog is. Yeah.
There's so many words, right? And because we were conquered by the same
Spaniards.
Joe Coy says they're the Mexicans of Asia.
Exactly.
Right.
And so I just felt like I felt so identified, and I love the way that Filipinos eat. Like I love the spoon and the fork, and I love like the saucy and the meat, and all you need is rice and sauce and meat to like make anything just amazing. So
And how long ago was this?
This was 2011.
Okay, because I went back last year.
Oh, nice.
And all I ate was vegetarian and vegan food.
Yeah, she says there's a big growing vegan vegetarian culture there.
Oh,
Yes.
I want.
Seriously. And I'm like, they need more of that here.
Yes.
In California.
Yeah, because if you think about, because like obviously I dated a few Filipino girls in my life, and I had a best friend that was half Filipino growing up. So, I mean, food, like they go all out.
They
like
go in,
every party is like, I mean, just trays of like pancet, lumpia. Toron is like my favorite, the fried banana.
I love toron.
You know, and chicken adobo and rice and all this kind of stuff. So they go out as far as it goes to food. But like I said, like adobo is not the chicken.
No.
Adobo is the sauce.
It's the sauce, exactly.
Get some of that meat from California vegan food,
baby.
and put that adobo sauce on it, and you got the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah. So
and menudo.
Menudo.
You guys have
We do
menudo in
menudo
your
too.
culture, right?
Yeah,
I think we
menudo.
probably got it from you guys.
Yep.
But the Spaniards.
I've made a vegan menudo also.
yeah. Really?
Okay.
What do you use for the meat for the tripe? thing?
So the tribe, so they have these like soy curls.
Okay.
So
So
and
it's
so if
soy-based.
you, it can be soy based. So that's just one example. But in my business we are actually soy free.
Okay.
But like the vegan menudo I made, like on my
Soy
own
free?
personally. Yeah.
I saw a funny meme. It says, "What if soy milk is just milk introducing itself in Spanish?" Hola, soy milk. Just kidding. Right? I digress. But anyways, I'm excited to go to the Philippines. One of our goals is to go out there to the Philippines. So you fell in love with the southeastern.
Absolutely. Southeast Asia in general. Like I love Thailand. I loved Cambodia. Like I want to go back. I want to go to Vietnam. Like I want to visit all these places, especially now, because you see all these bloggers and these YouTubers and these vloggers who are going over there and
Bali.
they're eating all the vegan food.
Bali.
You see everybody. You see what's his name, Delgado, go to Bali and they're eating these just like abundant and beautiful,
and the fruits over
places.
there.
Yeah.
The fruits in the tropical areas, like they're just
Tropical
sweeter
countries.
and better and tastier. Oh man, you're making me hungry.
Whenever I go back to the Philippines, I always want to go to the tropical fruits that I cannot eat here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you have to go to the jungle for that most of the time.
Yeah.
In the woods.
So I don't know if you saw that show with what's the one on Netflix? Oh my god.
Which one?
The one with the actor. My gosh.
Zac Efron.
Yeah, Zac Efron.
Down to Earth.
So Down to Earth with Zac Efron. There's a community in Costa Rica that's owned by an American that's an all like sustainable, like they basically bought this huge piece of land in the jungle and it's a community like but I want to make like a vegan community like that. Like they basically go shopping in their forest, like they go grab a big ass jackfruit, they grab all these fruits and they have breakfast together and it's a community. So that's like one of my dreams is to eventually have like a self-sustaining vegan community that lives off the land
Yep.
in some beautiful place. It's
Yep.
obviously not going to be the United States, but
Well, eco villages, it's possible here.
yeah.
Mm.
Well, you've started a farmer's market. I'm sure you're kind of learning on all that kind of stuff. So, you know what? I mean, I think we can go ahead and wrap it up. But, it was great having you here. I mean, you're obviously a leader, a natural born leader, I would say.
Thank you.
A visionary, and anything you wanna tell the people out there, anything you want to plug, anything, tell us about what's going on with your life, where they can find you, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, like I mentioned, we're at the Greater Rose Garden Farmers Market every Saturday from 9 to 1. And the address is 577 Dana Avenue at the crossing of Brooklyn and Dana. If you're familiar with San Jose, if you live in San Jose, we're right across the street from Lincoln High School. And so, yeah, we're there from 9 to 1 a.m. You can get a breakfast burrito. You can get regular burritos. You can get tacos. You can get tortas. We always have a fresh agua ready to go. And we also manufacture, package, and label our own products. So you can buy any of our products, the chickpea chicken or the black bean beef, in a whole pound or a half a pound.
And where do they find that?
Also at the farmers market or online on our website.
What's the website?
www.californiaveganfoodcompany.com.
So www.californiaveganfoodcompany.com. Are you guys on Instagram?
Yes, we are.
How do they find you on Instagram?
The handle is ca.veganfood.co.
And we'll actually have everything in the links below. So if you guys didn't catch that, just go ahead and check in the links below. But yeah, thank you so much, Rosa. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Look forward to, continuing the vegan movement and the journey here.
Absolutely. It's the vegan revolution.
Exactly, right?
Yep.
And thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, we're on all major platforms. The link will be in downstairs in the description. And, stay tuned for more. This podcast, as always, is intended to inspire people to find their true purpose, follow their bliss. You heard from an amazing leader today that's helping out her community and, just want to help people out. And you're going to hear more of this. So, like, subscribe, share this with other people. And, we look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Anything you want to say, Joe?
I'm definitely looking forward to following your journey. Like I'm looking forward to continuing this conversation even after this.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't
seriously.
think this will be the last time we'll have you again.
Yeah, I have so many more questions and
Yeah.
Definitely. And thank you for being the person that you are and making these changes and you're a leader of compassion, seriously.
Thank you.
And it's just so refreshing to meet someone like you. So
Thank you
so
for
much.
taking
the time.
Yeah, I appreciate just the acknowledgement, and it just, it gives me fuel to keep going. It gives me fuel to dream bigger because, I really just want to see. I am leading with love, right? That is also my motto, and what I'm telling everybody that I talk to, that as long as you lead with love in everything that you do, every interaction, every conversation, even just like every glance, right? Every time you look at somebody else in the eye, if you're looking at them with love, they're not gonna shy away, right? And that's it's like a micro, I don't want to call it a microaggression, but leading with love, you're never gonna fail.
Yeah.
I
And
love that.
it's energy. Yeah. And so, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And as always, follow your bliss.
Follow your bliss.
We'll catch you guys on the next one.